We're going to drain the swamp of corruption. Drain the swamp. And that's what we're doing. We are going to Washington, D.C., and we are going to drain the swamp.
Is Harvey Barnard from the NESARA organization. NESARA stands for National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. It's a package that Harvey has put together, and he joins us in studio today.
I'm a systems troubleshooter. I take a look at a system for my clients and decide what's wrong, what are the problems. And we've got some real problems in this country. This time next year, we're looking at a $6 trillion debt. NESARA is the only bill out there that says we get rid of $1 trillion worth of debt up front.
Drain the swamp. And that's what we're doing.
Hi, I'm DIONESE Barnard, D for short. As you may know, my father was Harvey Francis Barnard, author of the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. We can clear up a misconception right there. It is stabilization.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the Real NESARA Show. I'm DIONESE Barnard, and I am glad to be back after a little sabbatical I've taken here for the early part of the spring. FCB, how you doing? I missed you. Missed everybody.
Look, darling, I missed you. Everybody missed you. They kept talking about you, and I'm glad you're back.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to be back, and I've missed them, and I've been keeping up with your show and jumping in on the chat every time I could, and had a minute, and so it's been interesting. Man, lots going on.
Oh, look, that's an understatement, as you know.
Yeah, you see, I got my new office here. When I moved from my so I don't know if the guys they haven't seen this set yet, but when I left the office that I worked in town and I moved all my stuff here, I just went ahead and redid this room in my house and said, okay, this is my new spot.
You did your new spot. I did my new spot.
I know,
we've
yeah.
been fixing things up here,
Right,
we're trying to make things more professional, more
new
homely,
energy.
Enjoyable. Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And you look radiant.
Well,
really
thank
look
you.
radiant.
Thank you. So yeah, we're moving into our spring, summer, and I know y'all are kind of heading into the fall, winter there. I see you got your jacket and
Oh yes. I can see you're obviously wearing your t-shirt.
yes, I have a t-shirt on.
It's the
I've been out in
opposite.
the yard and all that kind of good stuff. So
Everyone's saying hi, Dee.
hello to everybody.
Yes,
I didn't bring up my board over here, but I'll get my comment board up. And hi everybody. I'm just so glad to be back, and I'm gonna come as often as I can. And I had something that struck me that I wanted to talk about tonight was one of the things that the core of Harvey's work was the fact that our economic system should not be at the whim of the political winds, as he would call it. And it doesn't matter who's in office or who's in power. Our money as a civilization, as a human species, we should be able to control our money, and we should not have to ride an emotional roller coaster. That being said, at this time, it seems that if you look out into the world, and especially in the world of social media and podcasting and that, and take the temperature, you see there's a lot of people that are, angry with Trump or just out speaking against him. I want to make it clear that is no way my take on it. Okay. So I just want to make sure that that's understood up front. In fact, I think President Trump's doing a great job with what he has to work with. Okay. That's the bottom line. And if we were talking about this in the pre-show. If you go back in history, let's go back to 2015, right? When he came down the escalator and people were like, what's going on? And I even looked at my husband and I said, this guy tweets. No, presidents don't tweet. What is this all about? Well, as time would tell us, he got elected and in so many incidences, it looked like we were going right over the cliff, right? And he would always manage to pull it out. And of course, unparalleled support in this country. Forget about what the polls say. What the people on the ground and how they feel. And here we are, 10 years later. We're in the third quarter, as I see it. There's a lot going on in the game down there. May or may not be some foul play on the field. I can't tell yet, but we're in the third quarter. And people who want to throw in the towel now and leave the stadium, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it tells me a couple of things. Number one, that they were never really in it for anyone other than themselves. A lot of these people who are speaking out anti-Trump have ridden the Trump train. They have made a lot of money on his coattails, as the way I see it, Not to mention the second thing, they're ungrateful. Just think back where we would be had it not been for him. So while, yes, there were some things that we could do better, and I think that he would do better if he had a better system. I still believe he's doing a phenomenal job.
I have to agree with you, Dee. I mean, you've heard me on the pulse, so I've spoken about it quite a few times about President Trump, how these influencers, they go with what's popular, right? And at the moment, it's anti-Trump that's popular. You've seen that rhetoric that's going on. Right?
Yeah.
Now, these were influencers that were all the way MAGA with Trump, all that sort of stuff. And I said it for years, and it's happening right now. There was going to be a point where they're going to show their true colors, and they are, right? Because they're all riding the gravy train of Trump, like you said, and like I've been saying for quite some time now. And now that it's not popular anymore, they've got to go with what's popular, because popularity is what produces, obviously, money, cash, right? Because that's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day,
right?
Correct?
Right. Yeah, and that's again, that shows me that they're not really supportive of the country or interested in the welfare of the citizens, or grateful for everything that he has done and that he and his team have done for us. So, and I guess, like I said, I like to point that out, and people like that they'll get theirs in there, and what they say, karma will come around. How's that?
Well, have you seen what President Trump put up on Truth Social?
I don't.
Let me just show you real quickly.
Okay.
Because this is what we've been talking about, and it's not a conspiracy theory because he's put it up there himself, right?
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, right, exactly, yeah.
Okay, it's not a conspiracy theory. What does that say right there?
It was the calm before the storm. Yeah, there you go.
Where does that reference from?
Actually, from the Q drops.
Exactly. So we've seen him also having Q plus, shall we say, on his collar.
Yeah.
And it's all on his Truth Social. Now, he's putting all this stuff out there. Never before has he done this to that extent. So this is what I'm saying. What's happening right now is he says it was the calm before the storm. So the storm, if it's the calm now, the storm's coming, basically. That's what I'm getting. What do you think?
It would seem so, usually. And we'll find out what that storm is going to be. It's never what you think, and that's how he's, I guess, managed to maintain the edge or the element of surprise.
And then the references are, yes, draining the swamp, right?
Yeah. Since
Let
the
me show
beginning,
you.
he's used that. So, yeah.
Yes, and we know where that comes from.
Yeah. It comes
Your dad's book, right?
right
Can
here.
you pull
Yeah.
that out there? Yeah.
Yeah. This is Harvey's. And, you know, I don't know if you have a lot of new people that are watching us now. I'm DIONESE Barnard GERBRECHT. My father was Harvey Francis Barnard. He wrote Draining the Swamp, the NESARA story. Now, he wrote the bill, the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. He wrote it, oh gosh, it was his life's work, and he brought it up to Washington, in the late 80s, early 90s. Of course, it's a people's bill. It will completely redesign the banking and monetary industry, the taxation policies of this country, of America. And so it wasn't well received. He later put it out on the internet and in 1996, and that's when it began to be discredited, and so was he. Now, the reason for that is because, again, this would completely change the rules of the game. So what better way to get it out of people's mind or make it, you know, fringe than to do just that. They tied it up with all kinds of stuff, and we've documented all of that. You know, FC and I have worked really hard, you know, to bring all that proof and evidence to light. Long story, but fast forward 20 years later, I decided to jump back in the game. I'm his only child, and I had said, you know, enough is enough, and so I've got the book available out for everybody to read, the real bill. So that'll catch them up a little bit.
Now, you just said draining the swamp, right?
Yeah.
Now, Trump has been making some references to that point quite a few times, may I add. Okay, so he knows. Have a look at this one just recently, 8 hours ago. What does that look like to you? Draining the swamp.
You're draining the swamp, yeah.
Well, that represents the swamp, doesn't it? Look at it. It's disgusting and filthy. Right?
Yeah.
So this is 8 hours ago, and he put that out there. Look at that. The left.
I can't
swamp.
see.
Right? Can you see?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see it on your screen. Okay, what they do, what we do. Yeah.
So there's plenty of references that he's been doing about draining the swamp, and even he even said it not long ago. So this is what I'm saying. I mean, there's things that he's been doing deliberately by design.
Right.
Right. You know, so this is what I'm saying, guys, you know, don't go by the fear porn, the rhetoric that you're listening out there from other we're not influencers, we're empowerers, right? There's a difference. We empower people with knowledge. The influencers use their influence to influence the weak-minded. That's the way I describe it. What do you think?
They want to influence you to buy their wares or keep tuning in or subscribe to their channel or whatever that is.
Yes.
We have information we want to share, and we're fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to do that at this time. And so, you know, we're bringing the truth and like I said, and evidence. It ties in directly what you were saying with what we're going to talk about tonight, the economic volatility. You know how he has done, and you pointed out so many times, he will do things to demonstrate a point. Correct. To bring it around organically, to show people, okay? And one, like I said, at the core of Harvey's bill and the case that he made in the book was that we should not have one person or one party or one political group, lobbyist or whatever, making our rules and our monetary policy. So if you look back over the last year, which I did that's what I did a little analysis on, you can see how it's just getting worse, and I don't say worse and worse, but how it's getting more obvious. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Where he'll step out and make a tweet or say something or do something or an executive order, and the markets just go wild one way or the other, or the bond markets, or, you know, something happens financially. And it's just almost an exaggerated example, I would have to say. You know, if you're stepping back and looking at it, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm paying attention.
Okay, are you paying attention to me?
No,
okay.
I'm really fascinated because what you're saying, it does make perfect sense, because the moment that he says something, does something, and it does it deliberately by design, it impacts the markets, right? And this is what, this is where it goes back to what we said about the world oil markets, right? So President Trump says that we've got plenty of oil, right? Plenty of oil there in the United States. We knew that what they were doing was everyone was purchasing the oil from over there in the Middle East, right? Because they wanted to weaken the United States, right? They wouldn't purchase the oil from the United States. It was all from there over there. That was done deliberately by design. Now, what's happening is, why is it impacting the pump? Is because of the fact that he's showing us how the mechanism has been working. You can have oil pouring out of the ground everywhere in the United States, and yet the price of oil, the price of fuel or gas is through the roof, right? How does that work? It's because he's showing us, hey, this is how it's always worked. Right.
It's the buddy deals, and first one thing, and it's the refineries. Okay. They not only was our ability to pump oil weakened, but our refinery capacity was weakened here. Different oil, oil goes into different products, and all refineries don't produce the same thing. So it depends on what you want that ultimate product to be. Many times, we'll refine some oil, sell it to China. They'll put it in a product and sell that product back to us, or vice versa. You see, it depends on where that refinery is and what they specialize in. So in addition to the availability of the oil, you got to have the ability to refine it.
Haven't you found it quite odd that we've had refineries blowing up all around the place? Have you seen it?
I have not, because I don't watch much news.
Well, I know.
I mean, I know that they're working very hard here in the United States to get them up and running, and
I mean, look.
But globally,
what's very interesting, what is very interesting, is President Trump is doing things deliberately to show people how it's like this. People just give a shit, pardon my French, but all they care about is how much they pay, right? Now, they go to sleep. They don't care as long as they've got comfortable interest rates, food is low in cost, fuel at the pump is cheap, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No. How do you awaken the masses? How do you awaken the sleepwalker? You got to do what he's doing right now. You got to make it uncomfortable in every which way possible to grab their attention and show, hey, this is how it's all working. He's pulled the black curtain and shown you who the Wizard of Oz is. And he's doing it deliberately by design each and every time. Now, you think about this. In a nutshell, it's all about going after the United States and bringing down the economy and bringing it down as a superpower, right? Bringing that down. Because if America falls, as you know, the world falls, okay? The world's biggest militia over there, a threat, right? So they've been going, they've been going after the United States in so many different ways. It's unbelievable. Left, right, center, from every direction, right? Trump is showing us which directions they're coming from. That's what he's doing.
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Now he's using himself as the scapegoat. That's why they call him the goat, right? Like he says, I'm Batman. You know what that means? Like
right. Yeah, from the show, from The Dark Knight. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's doing exactly that. He's drawing attention to narratives. He's doing future proofs the past. That's exactly what he's doing. So, it all makes the world of sense, Steve, what you're saying, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay, let's get into it then. I'm gonna do.
Look what he just said. Tulsa.
In Tulsa, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't been keeping up with that. That's terrible. I'm sorry to hear that.
We had refineries here in Australia blow up as well.
Well, we have refineries here in Louisiana. I don't think we've had any problems lately. Or
we had them in Texas. There's in Texas some. There's
family in Texas.
Oh yeah, there's been some blow-ups all around the place.
Interesting.
It is, isn't it? And that's the thing. There's obviously a reason, because it's not just once and then stop. It's like being in a sort of order, if you will. It's like one sort of after another, then after another, and then a petrochemical place will blow up as well. There's something going on, Dee. You know what I mean?
We'll have to run a timeline on, let's do like 8 months back. How how many have had troubles blown up or explosions or some type of thing, and compare that to the previous 8 months, and do segments like that and see what the trend is. Is it suddenly is the line going up for normally, because you're going to have accidents and that kind of stuff. It's a dangerous business. So is this more than average? Then
Well,
yeah. So that's
what I've been
interesting.
seeing, it's more than average. all
Okay,
right.
yeah, and I wouldn't keep
'Cause
up, but somebody will know. Yeah, I mean that's just a quick exercise.
Carol
But we
says,
could-
follow the money.
yeah, I'm
owns
sure.
them?
Yeah, follow the money. Who owns them? Who? A lot of money was being put back into infrastructure and that kind of stuff. So there could be a
Mm.
connection there as well.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, look. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to share this screen here. Oh, you got to take yours down.
Yeah,
Let
I'll
me
do
share
that
mine.
now for
Okay.
you. There you go.
All right. Okay. And I'll explain a little bit. This is the last year of Trump's either policy announcements, tweets, just some of the things that I pulled out and I said, hey, these had an impact. And so we're just kind of, I'm going to go through them, not too terribly detailed, but just so that people get the idea of how volatile and how much control they have. And this is, we're talking about people's pensions, their stock market investments. It's up, it's down. It's always, what they pay at the pump, what they pay for groceries. And it's just a long emotional roller coaster. And we should not have to have that kind of pressure in our economic system. And that is what Harvey, his system that he designed, you have what you call natural volatility, not
Mhm.
artificial volatility. And there is a difference. So,
Yeah.
okay. So everybody remembers in April of 2025, the big tariff liberation day. The markets, he came out with the executive order 14257. It was partially enacted and then they paused it after a little while. Because there was just way too much volatility in the market. But the S&P fell, 5%, NASDAQ 6%. Overall, that period, it was about a 9.5% adjustment up and down. But that was, it fell like 5 or 6% in a day, which is a lot. The Main Street impact, they had higher prices ahead on imports, clothing, electronics, and appliances. Now, businesses like to be able to plan ahead. They buy inventory and stock, and they plan for certain purchases and, in the future based on what their suppliers' prices are. You start throwing tariffs in there, and now their whole plan is out of whack, and they just pull back and they go, okay, I'm not investing in anything right now. Which, of course, that's their livelihood. The 401ks, like I just said, those swung sharply, and retirees lost a lot of money in the savings. It panicked a whole lot of people. Okay. So we move ahead a little bit to April 2017 through the 21st, 2025, when Trump came out and he called Powell Mr. Too Little, Too Late, Mr. Too Late, a major loser.
Yeah.
You can see my sources down here at the bottom on this quick screen. I have the full website. So if anybody is interested in them, they can just email me. I'll give them to you. Yeah, so y'all all know he and Mr. Powell didn't get along very well, even though Powell was his pick in his first administration, FC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It was his first pick. I remember.
His first, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think
so
it was. Let me just confirm it. But let me
okay.
just- yeah.
I think he was. I think Powell was his guy. But he's putting public
Trump picked
pressure.
him. Trump did pick him.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought
he
so.
did.
I thought so.
Yeah, he did.
And saying he's not acting far enough by reducing the rates. Now, this caused, again, of course, stock prices fell and the bond yields went up. Okay, that caused the dollar to be volatile. People don't know if we're going to need to borrow more money, so that causes instability in the bond market. And over the Fed independence. How independent are they really? The Federal Reserve, as it's set up now, is supposed to be independent of the government. But if the president's telling him what to do, how independent is it really? So all of these concerns again cause the market to go crazy over him simply stepping out. And I don't know if he tweeted it or he said it in a press conference, but that's a lot of effect for one man's word to have. May 2025, drug prices. This was an executive order demanding most favored nation prescription drug pricing. Okay. Now this was the order was signed, and the financial effect was pharmaceutical stocks initially sold off and then recovered as investors questioned enforceability. What it was designed to do was to lower lower drug prices. But there was some difficulty in actually bringing that about. However, it caused flux in the health industry, the health sector of investments. People had hope for lower drug cost, but they did not get immediate relief. Seniors on fixed income still struggle with high prescription costs. Now, this was back in, let's see, we'll find out what the date was, May. Since then, if you remember here just recently, he did do something with the drug cost. He got his website with the lowered prescription cost. And then there was another thing that he worked with MAHA on to bring down some prescription drugs. And that the people in the United States will be paying the same as overseas. So there again, it's a good thing. Nobody's debating here. Certainly I'm not debating whether his decisions are good or bad for the economy. Clearly, this is a good thing. But for one person to have all of that power, to just to tweet something or come out and say something and the markets go ballistic is not the way that our system should be done. May and July. Now, this was the tax debt bonds, the big beautiful bill. Again, here's something else that was a good thing that he managed to get done. There was some negative impact. It's going to cost higher debt, a risk of higher taxes or inflation, later costs, and the cost of borrowed money rises. So what that means is, as the United States needs money to run itself, okay, if we're giving taxes, if we're giving you a tax break, then we don't have enough money to run the government. So that means we have to borrow money, right? So we borrow some, that affects our treasury bond market. You follow me there?
Yeah, I'm following you. Yep.
Okay. You look
so
like you
who's
reading.
the biggest holders of the treasury bonds, would you say?
Different countries invest. Japan
Canada
has a lot. Japan has a lot of treasury bonds.
Take a look at that. That's very interesting, isn't it? Let's
Yeah.
see who is the biggest. Who is the biggest holder of treasury bonds? Okay. I know that I think Canada's got some, isn't it?
All countries invest in we're really the best game in town. They invest in our bonds because they're easy to liquidate and we have never defaulted. So yeah, we're pretty much the best game in town.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find who is the biggest. You're correct, Japan.
Yeah, Japan has a lot. In fact, Japan had a scare not too long ago, and I kept up with it for a little bit, and then I just kind of lost track. But their new leader is wanted to sell off some of the United States bonds, and I think that wasn't going to go over very well. So anyway, I think they worked out a deal. But
these, say, look, Japan being the biggest one, right, holder of these treasury bonds. What kind of pull do they have over the United States? Do they have any pull over the policy, U.S. policy?
I'm sure they would. I mean,
they would be, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that it goes to follow. We're investing in your country to that amount of money, and it's not so much just that, but they have a controlling interest. What they do affects us. Like if Japan had all of a sudden said, we are dumping our U.S. bonds, right? The bond market would free fall, right? You see what I'm saying? As other countries make moves on that, then that affects our bond market. Right?
So the
because
bonds are
we're
what,
so
what are they
indebted, and that's how we
purchasing?
raise money.
Purchasing debt? Is that what it is?
What?
Is it
Yeah.
purchasing debt?
Yeah, other countries invest in U.S. Treasury bonds. Okay,
Right.
and so they'll buy the bonds. Okay, and we have an interest rate. Okay, and that's what we're going to pay you. And that rate. Now, bonds traditionally are a very good long-term investment. Most retirees and that kind of thing are invested in bonds simply because you're not going to get a whole lot of interest, but it's generally pretty stable. Again, we don't default and it's easy to liquidate, right? So US Treasury bonds are still a good investment. But other countries, that's like I said, that's why they spend their money over here.
Okay.
But what happened in Japan, they were going to sell, they were giving people interest to buy their bonds, right, in their country. And so they were going to end up, doing more with their own bonds and dumping the United States bonds, is the way I understood it.
Well, what's very interesting was China was formerly the largest holder. So you had China, and I think they offloaded some of the bonds, didn't they? Quite a few of them, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Then
a lot of countries have.
Yeah, so it's UK, China, Japan's the highest. So Japan's at 1.24. United Kingdom has 897 billion. And China has now dropped to 693.3 billion. So there you go.
Yeah. So let's go on. Okay. So the first time now, so in June of 2025 was the first attack on Iran and the military action. And of course, the price of oil went up. Same thing that we're experiencing now, just not for as long a period of time. Now, this particular incident could actually be argued, almost as a natural, you have natural events that are going to affect the market and artificial ones, right? Natural ones are like the next one, the copper market. If you had a copper mine and you had a landslide and all of a sudden the mine was closed. Okay, so that's going to affect prices. Well, that's a natural occurrence. Can war be considered a natural effect or an artificial one? I don't know, but I guess that depends on which side you're standing on and how important is the war. But in this case, of course, it was very quick, and the gas prices went up, but and everything gas related, travel related, that kind of thing went up, but it came right back down. But it was very volatile. And again, put strain on budgets. These are people at home who are just trying to make it to work to take care of their family. And their domestic life is now, up, down like a yo-yo because of this. The copper, oops, I went to the wrong screen. Hang on. Did you take that off? Okay. Let me go back to this one.
We got some comments for you here, Dee.
Oh,
great
okay.
to see you, Dee. Your videos about NESARA Gold is professionally done, and you looked so beautiful in them.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And yeah, I enjoyed doing that one. That was fun. That's my little, what you see on there is my avatar. And I give it my script and then it puts it, and then I have to go and put it wherever I want to and change the lines and stuff. But I appreciate that. Thank you. I hope people found it informative, and it is still going on. I see these people all the time advertising, and certainly I think gold is a wonderful investment. All I'm telling you is buyer beware. Make sure that you check them out really good. And if at all possible, the collectibles, if they're trying to sell you collectible coins, just make sure that you're aware of that. You know what you're getting into, and you realize how volatile that price can be.
We've been speaking about that prior to Tucker. I remember that. We spoke about that
we were talking about it long before Tucker did.
Well, that's the thing. It seems to me that everything we say sort of gets across to his show. But it's it's not just the first time. As I said, but anyway, beside the point, he's got a bigger platform. He's obviously got a bigger reach, and they're using him to get out that message. That was big. That was huge. That video that you did as well.
Yeah.
It really explained it. you know, how that grift works, because it is a grift.
Yeah,
it really is a huge grift.
It is. Yeah, and they used a lot of these people who are trusted individuals. There are people say all the time from mainstream media, there's many of them, and they're paid to advertise for these companies. And again, it's just like an influencer. You have to buyer beware, and make sure that the best thing is just understand the language, and don't ever feel rushed. Okay, that's one of the biggest things that cons and grifters do. Is they will try to rush you, and they'll say, "Oh, but you're going to miss out if you don't get it now today." And it's like, no, wait a minute. If it's a good deal, it'll still be there. It'll still be there. And
you saw how these people, there are real people that have been impacted by that. And this is the thing, they always target. Do you see how they always target their seniors? They're always going after that target, because you think about it, that's where the money is. Okay. Right. They know that there are people that work so hard. Okay. And they don't care about what they, how hard they work, whatever. All they care about is making money and obviously rorting people. And that was exposed. Now, what needs to happen is that there needs to be some heads rolling to have some justice, I think. What do you think?
I think so too. Yeah. I think
they just can't get away with, I'll slap your hands and no, you got away with it. No.
Right. And what they do is they go and shut that one down and they open another one. And so it's a continuation of the same thing, just under a different name. And that's the, the really,
it reminds me of the
part. And you're right about the older people. You have to, you'd be surprised the ones that are victims. And because you'll have someone who has been sharp all of their life. They were on top of their business. Everything was great. They get elderly. They may be less socially active, more, and I don't want to say housebound, but you know what I'm saying. They're slowing down in their later years, and they're more susceptible to that kind of stuff. And plus, they may not have a lot of visitors. I don't want to say that they're lonely, but you know what I mean? Then someone's talking to them. So they tend to believe that everyone's their friend sometimes. And that's, so you just check on your family, make sure. And that's another thing. If you are an elderly person or anyone, I don't care what your age is, and you're going to make a decision like that, talk to someone in your family, talk to someone that you trust. If you know someone that's an advisor or anything, just bounce it off of them,
Yeah, I just want to make one thing clear. Please keep your questions till later. When we open up the questions, okay, if you have any questions regarding the topics that we're discussing, okay, we're more than happy to answer them later on when we open up question time. Is that right, Dee?
Oh, yeah. We'll do some question and answer. So, okay, I'll get back to this real quick. Let me share this. Okay.
Yes, sure.
Okay.
Yours or yours?
All right, here we go. There we go. Okay. So y'all are kind of getting the idea. September 2025, they had more pharma tariffs. This is where he put the tariff on incoming pharmaceuticals. Again, this is causing the health care prices to go up and down. The 50-year mortgage. Now, you remember we talked about that last year. It was in the fall. And how I said, that's just fiscal suicide. But yet he floated it out there. It was just an idea. And because of that idea, lower, there was the discussion of lower monthly payments, but much higher lifetime interest. Analysis warned could inflate home prices. So now, people are worried that the prices of houses would go up, more debt over a longer period, harder for families to build equity, future buyer takes on bigger risk, all of just because of I don't know if it started with a tweet or just, like how he does, he'll walk out and say something and boom, it's suddenly this grand idea that never came about that I know of. And again, it's horrible. We'll go over one of the slides I have tonight has the NESARA mortgage on it. So people will get to see what a fair mortgage would look like. Also, the credit card rates in January of this year, he talked about the. Let me see if I can get this to come up bigger so y'all can see it. Okay, there we go. Remember reducing the credit card rates to 10%? I think a lot of credit cards rate are at 25, 27%. This did not happen. People got all head up about it, caused a lot of fluctuation in the market, of course, but could lower prices for some consumers. But the credit card company said, okay, if you're not going to let us charge more interest, we're just going to restrict credit and we're not going to give as much out, which would hurt people who need it, unfortunately, right now. There's another senior citizen story that I encountered a few weeks ago. You and I've talked about the people who are older people who have done the right thing. They're on the Social Security. They have worked all of their life, and they are now having to live in their car because they cannot qualify for the rent. They can't make their rent anymore. And then that's bad enough. That's unacceptable to me. To me, that situation that older people are being priced out of the rent market while we have people who are utilizing our services in this country that don't belong here is just, it's one of my no-no list. It really gets under my skin. But the other thing is, one of the stories I heard about a lady, she was having to use her credit card to pay for her groceries each week. Can you imagine? It's just ridiculous. Unbelievable. And we have people that are in this country. One of the news stories I saw a couple of weeks ago was we were buying cosmetic surgery for illegal aliens in this country. And I was like, and we have our own citizens who cannot feed themselves without using a credit card and who are now living in their vehicle because they cannot afford rent. And it's not because they're not homeless. They're getting their Social Security. They have their retirement. It's that the prices are that bad. Can you believe that? It just blew me away.
Well, there's a lot of things that blow me away, unfortunately, at this point. Yeah. It's look, the things are done deliberately. Like I said, you need to awaken humanity, right? You need to awaken the sleepwalker, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always said it, you got to hit him in the pocket. That's the only way. Remember I said about the UFO on the pre-show? I mean, you can have ET photos and all that. I mean, it doesn't mean a damn thing when you're eating baked beans. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think that the people that are suffering are don't deserve that. That this is not okay. Especially when you have like what we were talking about, the influencers who are, just living it high on the hog. But we'll see. Karma. Okay, in January.
So I'm just reading this one. Okay. JFig 62. I just turned 64, and that's exactly where I'm heading. My car. This is unacceptable. I agree. It is unacceptable.
It is. It's totally unacceptable. January through March in 2026, the housing, as we were just talking about this, an executive order to stop large investors from buying homes. And then he ordered Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities. This was designed to prevent large companies from buying up whole neighborhoods, or even more so, these large corporations will go out and hire contractors to build subdivisions. Then they own it lock, stock, and barrel, and they'll only rent it. They can set the rent prices. In addition, this is kind of like a mini bailout. Well, someone say mini, $200 billion mortgage-backed securities. Those are your mortgage loans. And what does that tell me? That tells me that the mortgage industry is not doing well, right? Mortgage rates dipped to 6.8%. So people said, okay, good. I will run out and get a home loan, but slightly lower rates would help buyers, but prices may still rise. So still instability in the market. And again, here, that this is just a bailout. Okay. There we go. Okay, now we're into our current Iran conflict. We all know what's going on with that. But the bottom line of this is this. The concern is not whether any single policy is good or bad. Okay? The concern is that credit card rates, mortgage rates, oil prices, housing costs, drug prices, bond yields, stock values, and construction materials can all be shaken by one political announcement. That is the instability Harvey Bernard was trying to solve through the NESARA's monetary economic reforms. And we'll go through, I have some slides on what he proposed and stuff. So here we go.
Awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think that people can see that it's that's just not the way the system should work. It just shouldn't work that way for anybody, that we are on this roller coaster constantly. And I can tell you, being a new retiree, it is extremely stressful. Okay.
So you obviously had to rejig things.
Oh, rejig. Right? Yeah. I mean, and even with my NESARA stuff, you know, we don't sell very many books, so I can't afford to keep a lot of the little things going like I used to. Right. And, it's difficult, you know, when you're working full-time job and you, okay, well, I maybe can, you know, spend some money on this, that, or the other. But when you go to what they, you know, for fixed income, that's exactly what it is. And you have to count your pennies. And you say, okay, well, I'll go out and get a part-time job. Easier said than done, you know, for people in the older category, especially with, you know, with new competition on the board, which I consider that AI. But the good news is that Harvey had solution, okay? And so we'll take a look at this real quick. What he saw as a way to stabilize the economy through asset-based currency and some banking reforms and tax reformation. And again, that's all in the book here, in the bill. The bill is in the book, and I mean, he's got his equations, he's got everything in here, all of his research. It's the whole ball of wax right here. All right, so we just talked about the today how the system works. Of course, it's reactive and it's debt driven, right? Our whole system is driven on debt, not on currency of value. All of these things control it. Markets are constantly trying to predict what the feds will do, what politicians will say, whether rates will rise, whether deficits will explode, whether stimulus is coming. Of course, stimulus, that's our wonderful little extra checks we get every now and then if they decide to give you some COVID money, or wasn't there some Doge? Did somebody get Doge checks? I never got a Doge check.
No, I know there's a lot of promises that
yeah, but that's what it is. What it is showing us that that's just them printing money. Which we all know what that does to the dollar. Let's see, you know, so the markets are constantly trying to predict whether war will affect oil or whether tariffs will affect inflation. And so all of these things affect our market and the value of our currency. In NESARA, okay, stable asset-backed monetary structure proposed a monetary system anchored in tangible value and constitutional principles, not political control. Okay, so the system's set, and the Fed would go away, and the Treasury is now would be in charge of our money, right? And the actual silver certificate, gold certificate is all backed by metal. Okay. And the exchange rates and the values of that are controlled by the Treasury. That's their job, is to make sure that those things stay stable. Constitutional monetary foundation restores money creation to constitutional limits. In other words, money is created through the Constitution, not through debt banking. Right. And we've talked about that before, and I'll go over it again in a minute, about how when you make a loan, that creates money into the system. All right, so asset-backed reserve system. Currency is linked to tangible assets such as gold and silver, not political promises or debt. We just covered that. And so how he has it set up in the bill is there are actual gold certificates. I mean, people are not suggesting you walk around with gold and silver in your pocket, right? You have gold certificates and silver certificates, which are backed by the metal. At the banks, you have accounts that are representative of those amounts. Like if you have gold certificates, you can only put them in a gold certificate account and silver in the silver certificate account. And it sounds complicated, but it's not. I mean, I think the whole bill is like 50 pages, which is small for a bill. Okay,
considering the bills, and you know what you know how they do the bills. They always do these. What do they call it? You know, it's like they shove so many bills in the one, like an omnibus bill, or what do you call it there in the States?
Yeah, that's exactly what you call it. Is it an omnibus? And everything but the kitchen sinks in there.
Yeah,
it's
and that's how they get things through. Every nefarious thing they get it through that way. So, in other words, can you think about this? These Congress people can't be bothered reading. I don't know how much ridiculous amount of pages are in these things, right? But it's ridiculous, right?
It is.
And they just like, I just want to sign it and get it over and done with, you know, just but it's like this. What they do is they haggle over, well, if we get rid of this, will you pass it? And that's exactly how it works, right? So it's like a negotiation process, you know, when they go through Congress, isn't it? Like, we'll only pass it if you get rid of this one and this one.
Right. Everybody cuts a deal. I want this for my constituents at home, and you know, in my neck of the woods. And so I'll get, you know, you give me this, I'll give you that. And you have to look at this, and you have to remember, the Congress people are not hired to think of America on a global stage or a sovereign nation. That's not their job. They are there to work for their constituents at home, whatever their people need. You know, right or wrong or what they do, I'm not, you know, that's a whole nother story. But that's their job. So they're not they never operate from a standpoint of, hey, this is good for the nation as a whole. This is good for the world stage and United States as a sovereign nation who can stand on its own. They know that when they go back home, if they don't have Bubba's bridge, then, you know, they're not going to get reelected. And so, and I'm make it very simple for you, but that's the way it is. That's what it comes down to.
You want to read that one?
That's how they operate.
Yeah, just read that one.
Which one? I did not get a Doge check either. Just the military got there 1776 so far. Okay. Well, good for the military then. I'm glad the military got something, and I'm proud for them. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think that those checks had gone out, but I get a little text every now and then that says, your check is coming. Okay. You know what? Fine. Okay. Appreciate it. I could use it, but you know, that just devaluates the dollar more, and that's what we're fighting against. So
these stimulus checks is basically to stimulate the economy, in other words, right? So they use it. So what would happen? People get the check now, right? Do you think they would be more frivolous as far as their spending is concerned? I would say so, especially with with what's going on right now.
It depends.
You know, you wouldn't be going on the spending spree.
There's usually a pretty good breakdown. Most people, and I think right now, with a lot of people hurting and having to finance so much just to stay afloat, they would turn around and get themselves out of a little bit of debt. But you know, you're going to have a little bit of each kind. Some people, they'll go and spend it all. But I'd say it's about 50-50.
The current economy, the status, the way things are, what usually happens is when things are like this, people become more tighter, right? So obviously they're thinking we better not spend it because we need it for food or for this or for that.
We don't know what's going to happen.
They're not going to go out to the restaurants. They're not going to go and splurge because you know what I mean? That's how it works. And that's how they control also. Remember, I think we discussed this as well with the interest rates and all that, how they're able to stop people from spending too much. And, what was that? Is that just the interest rates?
The interest rates, there's a lot of things that play into that, and stimulus money is one of it as well. if they want to slow down the economy, they raise the rates. If they want to speed it up, they lower the rates, and that has to do with the lending and the more money in flow. Um, you're right about people wanting
It's like
to
having a
go out.
hole in the tap, isn't it? Like a hand
Well,
in the
yeah,
tap.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. Then that's the
Yeah.
Fed. That's the Fed's job. That's what they do. They're there to monitor the economy and not let it get out of whack. And the point is that if it was run properly to begin with, if it was set up stable, you wouldn't need to be worried about wiggling it. Okay, you wouldn't have that because your your currency is actually based on an asset, not on debt. And what you were just saying before it slips my mind, the you're right. If the people get a stimulus check, they're going to hold on to it because of the instability. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. I mean, what did we just demonstrate here? That it could go sideways any minute. I better sit on this for a little while, or at least get myself out of debt so that I don't have to worry about that in a few months from now, which hurts the economy. You can't have growth and stable and regular expectations. It also hurts, savings.
Well,
So
you know what? I want to put it out there in the chat, guys. What would you do if you receive a stimulus check and in the current state of the economy, what would you do? As in, what would you do with that money? Let's see what people would put in the chat. I'm just putting it. We need to get shall we say, the proverbial pulse. You know what I mean?
right,
What's going
yeah,
on out there?
that's great. Sure,
Yeah,
I,
we're
I'd
gonna
like
do
to
this
know
stuff.
too.
I think it's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's fun. Yeah, I'd like to
Yeah,
know. So y'all
yes.
start putting it in there, and we'll take a count.
Yeah, well, go for it. I'll keep going.
Compound interest. Okay, so this is the heart of the beast. I have a whole slide on compound interest, and we may shoot over to it real quick. But compound interest is what you're charged on your mortgage, what you're charged on any secured loans. NESARA gets rid of all compound interest. Gone. Okay. This saves just thousands, I mean, just billions of dollars. Okay. First in the mortgage industry, in anything secured like car loans, houses, trailers, anything that's tangible. Okay. Doesn't cover credit card debt or student loan debt or anything like that. That would be considered personal liability, but anything tangible. How it works on your mortgage is that when you take out a mortgage, the bank is allowed to charge a certain one-time monetization fee. Okay. And it's based on a rate. Okay, whatever the rate is at that time. So there you would still have some fluctuation of interest rates, but they're set by the general economy, not by the Fed swinging that hammer back and forth. So which is much less than you pay over the lifetime alone. Let me just jump to that real quick, and we'll go ahead and take a look at that. Let me remove
People
it.
are starting writing the chat, but we'll go through that later.
Okay. Let's do this one right here. Since we're on this. Okay. All right. So currently the problem with our compound interest system, compound interest grows exponentially. The longer the loan, the more unsustainable it becomes, right? Because the longer you have to finance something, the more that interest keeps building on and building on and building on, and it just stretches it out further and further. That's why I said the 50-year mortgage was a crazy, crazy idea. Because if you sit and calculate the amount of interest you're going to pay on that, it's just astronomical. So it's the currently designed right now. The system is designed to keep you paying as long as you can and keep that money going back to the banks or the mortgage companies or whomever. So we start up here. The core idea: compound interest on secured loan creates mathematical instability. Over time, compound interest continuously extracts increasingly amounts of wealth from households, businesses, infrastructure, and governments, creating a permanent debt treadmill. Okay. So everybody is affected by this. right? About compound interest. Where it really gets down to, I think what our viewers or be interested in is this right here. Okay, let's see. This is an example of a loan, a mortgage loan. So 30-year loan, $300,000 at 6%, right? And our current system, by the time you repay everything in full, is $686,000. Okay.
That's a fair whack.
What?
It
is.
whack.
It is a fair whack. Yeah. So
Yeah.
so what you're saying? So you have the interest, the simple interest is 162,000. Okay. So total repaid, you can see you got 54% of principal, 129% of principal. So over the lifetime of the loan, you're paying 129% of your principal, whether NESARA is only 54% of your principal. So it's like a house and a half, or two houses, as opposed to like right now, when you get a mortgage on a $300,000 house, you're going to be paying a lot more than $600,000 by the end of it, because interest rates are so high right now.
Well, look at the difference between what President Trump brought out. Remember that time with the tariffs and all that, and he also spoke about how Switzerland paying 0.25% on their interest, whereas in the States it's over 6%. Now, you do the maths. That's big.
Right.
That's huge.
Right. That's
huge.
What I mean? That's huge.
So why do they
and
get
why,
the benefits?
Why is Switzerland unable to do that?
Because you know why? The Rothschilds. That's why.
No. Because they have a stable monetary system. Okay. Their currency, all that is backed by assets, right? So it's they have a stable everything.
Okay, but then
is
why
worth the
is
same.
but why is their policy different to the United States? Why is everything different?
Well,
that's
because
what President Trump's trying to show. He's trying to expose the rules.
Expose them, because of the Rothschilds. Yeah, that's what you're saying. You're going all the way back.
But that's one aspect of it. But it's like this. Okay. Oops, where are we? I lost you. Switzerland. Yeah. Okay. Neutrality, right? Neutrality. That's where the puppet master is, right? Obviously, pulling both sides of the strings over there. Now, why do people have Swiss bank accounts? Oh, we've got a Swiss bank account. All of a sudden, it's like, ooh, obviously there's benefits, isn't there? Huge benefits, like having accounts in the Cayman Islands, right? You know what that's all about as well, don't you?
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. I mean, President Trump is about exposing the unjust system that's currently running, because we are running a system of debt slavery designed to keep us in debt slavery forever. Okay, that's what it's designed to do. President Trump is exposing it, and that's why he keeps bringing up about Powell. He's using Powell as a way, as a means of exposing the rot of the Federal Reserve. And then also, I bet the IRS, you heard about that business, about the suing and all that. Oh, yeah, he's doing it deliberately. He's exposing that whole system, because that whole system is not, people think, oh, no, it's a government. No, it's not the government. The government is the one that that basically steers the minds of the masses to make you believe that it's all normal. There's nothing normal about that whole system of the IRS or the Federal Reserve. That's all done by we're foreign occupied. That's what it is. Because you think about it, you got that thing over there, Washington, right? That's where the political, say, arm or whatever it is, the military arm, right? But the Federal Reserve, in the biggest one, they say the headquarters is in New York, right?
Right.
Obviously, that is where the gold is as well. Now, that's the biggest reserve of gold. And then you got the UN that happens to be there as well. So to be close to their, obviously, that's where they invest and they put their money into the Federal Reserve. You know what I mean? They put the gold, the resources and stuff in through there. And also about Iraq, how the oil that they make over there ends up there as well. So the money goes over there into the Federal Reserve in New York.
Into the Federal Reserve in New York. Okay.
Yeah. So this is what I'm saying when we say about gold, this shall destroy the Fed, right? You think about it. Where is the biggest gold reserve? It's there in New York.
In New York. Yeah.
And President Trump has been exposing the Federal Reserve to show that, and then you see that they're like how can I say, they're squirming. They've never squirmed under any president except President Trump. Have you noticed that?
Right. Yeah. Well, and he's made a lot of them do that. So, I don't think that
I admire
they're
him
not
for that
alone,
because
So,
he's okay. You think about this. If he was this proverbial deep stater, evil, all that sort of stuff, right?
mm-hmm.
Then why does he expose everything? Pedophilia, it was him that exposed it. He put in all the executive orders. He exposed Epstein. He was the one to bring Ghislaine, what's his name, Ghislaine Maxwell, wherever, to justice, and so forth and so forth. He could have just let everything slide, enjoyed his little ride as a president, and go on. You know what I mean? Like every other one has done.
Right.
Why hasn't he done it?
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Look, people
And that's
think.
something that people need to pay attention to. Not only that, but look at where we are. What did I say in the beginning?
Yeah.
We're in the third quarter here. Okay. The pendulum will swing. Okay. At the end of his term. Okay. There isn't another Republican on the horizon that is going to continue his work. I don't see a candidate, and not in the way that he's doing it. In other words, they're gonna, kind of go back to the way things were if they're allowed to, right? And so we don't have a whole lot of time. That's why people need to pay attention to this. The market's up right now, so people are saying, "Oh, well, things are good, things are okay, we're making some money." It's not going to be long, and it's going to go back down. The volatility is here. We've been going through it for a year. Okay. If you don't start educating yourself, like I said, read this book. It's very simple to read, and you will understand everything in it. And then you can say, wait a minute, there's a better way. And if we don't get a grip on this, and he can't do it himself. I've told you that before. This is a people's movement. It cannot be. There's no one. In fact, the video at the end of the video that you put on Telegram, the last one I did, and we'll play it toward the end of the show tonight, because I want people to go to my YouTube channel and share it, because I believe we're being shadow banned over there. So I want to see how many people can. Let's see if they can share it. Anyway, no one has motivation to change it for us. The people who are in control of this, they are not motivated. There's no reason for them to help us, okay? Because they know just in a few months, very short months, they'll be right back to where they were, right? So,
well, President Trump only has one crack at the title. We only have one crack at the title, guys. This is it.
This is it.
Okay, this is it, and this is where we've got to take our stand. Now, President Trump said back in 2017 when he was first inaugurated as the 45th, "I'm giving back the power from DC, the swamp, back to the people," meaning all of us, because we're all under the DC swamp. Even here in Australia, we're all part of this, right? Where we go, we're all in this together. Okay, now one crack at the title, guys. One crack. This is it. Make it count. You know what I mean? We've got to stop listening to the garbage out there. Stop listening to the fear porn, the rhetoric, and make us believe that we are powerless. We have the power, right? You've got to believe it. But you've got to stop believing in the fairy tales and the lies and the deceptions of others that go out there. This is the real NESARA. Let me make that very clear, right? This is why Dee and I do what we do, to bring you the truth, okay? Where others are out there, they've been pushing Sinead Goodwin's garbage, kicking the can up the road, repolishing it and doing it again. This is where the buck stops. This is the only crack at the title, and we've got to do it. That's my take.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, Dee?
Yeah, absolutely. His work was shelved, discredited, kept quiet. Then they put it out and made sure that people thought it was fringe. When I jumped back into the game about 3 years ago, prompted by a few little things, and if you go, you can hear my story, but I thought, okay, this is, here I am, and this will be easy, because people had asked me, because some people bought Harvey's original book, the hardback that he had in 2005 before he passed away, and there were a few people that remembered him, and so they said, please get this out in paperback, and so I worked hard and I did, and I thought, okay, great. I had no idea what I was up against. First, it was just my chat room would fill up with left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right. I'm trying to say, this is not partisan, guys. This is about our money. Okay. And it doesn't matter what hat you're wearing. Then it became all of these people saying, well, this is fake, and this bill was passed and all this kind of stuff. And I said, wait a minute. And so I started doing my own due diligence, and of course, I knew I'm his daughter. I lived it. I grew up with the man, and I knew that what they were saying was false. And when until FC came along, and then he and I together were able to get a bigger audience and get people to see. I mean, heck, remember when I found the newspaper article? That was gold. The one from the American Free Press.
Yes, that was
which
gold,
is
right.
also John Tiffany wrote a chapter for the book, and excellent stuff, which proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that all of this stuff that you see on the internet about NESARA, GERBRECHT, and RV, all that kind of stuff is nothing but a grift. And they've been doing it since 2001. Okay. It's 2025, and they keep kicking that can down the road and telling people, oh, it's going to be any day now, any day,
God, please.
any day, hold on, any day. And I was like, don't y'all smell a rat yet? I mean, come on.
No.
This is a revolutionary bill, and I can guarantee you the reason that those people are allowed to continue to con and grift is because they pose no threat. Okay? This strikes at the heart of the beast of our financial system, which is compound interest, and some banking reforms, which really are kind of mild. Heck, they're already doing some of the banking reforms through Basel and stuff like that. So that's nothing new. They're already talking about the IRS. Now, we've talked about that many times. The plan that they have up there is terrible. What I'm saying is that discussions are being had, okay? But nothing about the compound interest. That's where the real thing is, just like Mr. Werner said on Tucker's show.
Well, you think about this, right? Compound interest, right? It's a fair chunk.
That's huge.
That's huge. I don't when you let's bring that up on the screen. Let's bring it into perspective once again. Please.
Okay, so let me show you what the compound interest does. Again, when you and the mortgage is the best way to do. I'm sorry. Did you? There we go. Okay. The mortgage is the best way to describe it, but it would be the way he has the bill written is for any secured loan, so something that's tangible that you're borrowed on, that you're charged compound interest. That is illegal. The compound, NESARA would make compound interest illegal. The banks, however, do still get to make money. We're not, these people work hard. They're taking a risk. They deserve a return on their investment. There's what's called a monetization fee. It is a one-time fee that is based on the current interest rate at the time. That's it. It's added to the loan. It actually would be.
Sorry, Dee, you know what the problem is? Like what we discussed before. And we say about the banks, right? The banks have been responsible for a lot of things. Okay. Let's not make them into angels because they're not. Okay.
Well, they're not angels, but again, but I don't want anybody to starve either. So,
No. But hold on a minute. The money that they've been generating is out of thin air. Remember Professor Warner, what he said, which makes perfect sense. They've been able to conjure up things out of thin air, and then we use our sweat equity to pay them back, right?
That is correct. And when you get in to have a whole nother slide on actual banking reforms that addresses things like derivatives and losses on assets on the books. We've done whole shows on that about like the commercial real estate loan, the commercial real estate business, mortgages, that kind of thing, when and where they actually recognize those losses on the books and how that affects their position. their position, and derivatives are a very dangerous part of that. In fact, they're the most dangerous thing in the banking industry, I think.
My point is this: they should have those powers taken away from them, and they should
Yes.
do it the right.
Oh, yeah.
the
And
correct
it
way.
would. That's another
so
part
under
of the banking
NESARA?
reform. Yeah. Under NESARA, there would be new rules on reserve requirements and derivatives, what they can represent on their books. Again, but it's fair. Okay. There's, it's got to be fair for everybody, including people who, again, the bank does a service, but that's the point. It turns the bank into a public service, not a huge corporate conglomerate that controls the world, right? When I say the heart of the beast, I mean the heart of the beast, and you heard how Mr. Warner explained his experience, right? And if you recall what he said in the interview, he was visited by some very interesting people. So, but anyway, so for the mortgage, like I said, that monetization fee is added onto the principal, and then you pay a $25 a month excise tax, and that tax actually goes back to the general fund, which the general fund of the government is used to pay for services and that kind of stuff. This whole amount is a whole lot less than your compound interest would be stretching out for 30 years. In other words, you're going to pay off your loan in 15 to probably 15 to 20 years, depending on the size of your home, that kind of stuff, as opposed to 30+ year mortgage. Okay. And a whole lot less. So that's the kind of like the biggest example, but it creates stability. And this is, like you said, when you go to the bank and you get a loan, that's an entry put down on the bank's books. It's not actually, they didn't go to the vault and get the money and give it to you.
That's what people think.
No, they just write it down, and then now it's on these bank books, and it just came out of thin air. What reduces systemic risk, lowers debt growth, means fewer defaults, crises, and bailouts. Okay. Lowers financial stress. Families and businesses keep more of what they earn. Stimulates real economic growth. More capital flows into production, innovation, and infrastructure. And this also ties in directly with the taxation system that he has lined out. Strengthens communities. Less debt pressure allows families to invest in their future. Builds long-term prosperity. Wealth is created through work and productivity, not borrowed into existence. And so I'm going to put these up on my Facebook page, these slides that I'm doing, so that everybody, if you can go there, then you'll be able to get them. You can share them, screenshot them, whatever you want to do, and share them with people, because they're very, very complicated. They're not complicated. There's just a lot of information to try to do in one show here. And
I think people have been watching too many of those movies where they think the bank's got full of money in their vaults. You know what I mean? They go there to rob them.
that doesn't
Hollywood's
happen
to blame
anymore.
for that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. So
Gonna rob some zeros and ones.
yes, no, it doesn't happen anymore. Okay, I'm gonna do this last one, then we'll take some questions. This
No
is
worries.
the okay, oh, hang on. Did you have something you wanted to add to it?
No, keep going.
No, it's not letting me add it for some reason.
Well, you mean you're
There it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the tax portion of NESARA. And NESARA is the National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act. The grifters call it something else. They call it Security and Reformation. There is no such thing as the Security and Reformation Act, just to be clear. Okay, so what Harvey proposed here is abolishing the IRS, okay, replacing it with a national sales tax, okay, and this would be on, you pay your tax when you buy something, not on your income. However, there are many things that are exempt. Things like food, rent, medicine, some raw materials for manufacturing. There's a pretty encompassing list of things that would not be taxable. Why these provisions were put in is to help people on low incomes, right? If you're making a lot of money and you're buying the cars and the houses and the jewelry and the furs and the clothes, that kind of stuff, then you're going to pay more taxes. If you are a person on a fixed income or lower income, you're not going to be paying taxes because your necessities of life are not taxable. And this, because you're not taxed on your income, that means you're not taxed on investments. You're not taxed on the money you earn on your savings. This incentivizes people to put money into their savings account or invest in the market. I'm not going to, there's no capital gains tax, no corporate tax, no estate tax, which some of the things I think that President Trump has been working on, as far as the corporate and the capital gains. But now he says no tax on tips and no tax on Social Security. That is true up until a point. Read the fine print. When you get into a tax bracket, you're still going to pay your taxes. So it's not most people that are on Social Security, and that's one of their main incomes, are not going to pay taxes anyway. So, but let's go over this. Okay, so the problem is now the income tax. The problem with taxing people on how much money they earn is it runs down productivity. People don't want to work, or I want to, make money under the table, don't want to contribute. Business researchers, companies make decisions based on tax advantages, not on real value. Yeah, they're big corporations. They're going to make their moves and their decisions on where to build, where to invest, where to sell based on what their taxes are going to be, not on where's the real productivity or what's best. Investors move money. Capital flows are driven by tax incentives and loopholes. What I was just saying about people who want to invest. Well, I got to think about, if I actually earn some money on my investment, how am I going to maneuver it so I don't have to pay taxes on it? With retirees, you have to watch at what age you take it and how much you take it and when, and that kind of stuff. So all that goes away. Workers lose purchasing power. Under Harvey's plan, there's your federal deduction for your taxes goes away. So that money goes back into your check, right? You're still paying for your Medicare and your Social Security because these are social services. And until such time as the country decides they no longer want to provide that, we're still going to be providing that, right? But your federal income taxes goes back into your check. Industries, massive resources are spent on tax compliance, accounting, and avoidance. The IRS costs tons and tons to run it, right? Now, the IRS office would still be there. It would just change. Under his bill, it changes from a income tax office to a national sales tax office. And the same mechanisms and that kind of stuff that collect sales tax on a state level now are used to just, you just change the forms. Trump has not set it up yet, but it's definitely part of the plan. In fact, I believe in the Mar-a-Lago Accord, I don't know if it was in there or not, but the external tax system. We have an internal revenue department, and this is the external revenue department. He hadn't done it yet, but I think that's what he wanted to do, and that's what the tariffs were for. So the argument is that or his argument seems to be that if we want to get rid of the IRS, we have to have money to run the country. We would get more from tariffs. While I think that would work temporarily, it's my personal opinion, and that's not going to last forever. As things begin to stabilize, we may not have so much tariffs coming in, and you're still going to need money to run the country. And again, a national sales tax based on qualifying consumption is definitely a much fairer way to go for people. Now, one of the nice things about this and is the transparency. Okay, so it'll give you a visible, straightforward system everybody understands. There's no weird forms. There's no complicated interest penalty and what bracket am I in, or all of those little things that go into it. Deductions. Do I take itemized deductions? Do I not? No. You go down, you pay for it at the register, keep your receipt, don't keep your receipt. It's up to you. I think one of the biggest advantages, and I'm not sure that I put it on here, but is the IRS and the government are out of your business. In other words, right now, the IRS has been and can be weaponized, and we've all seen that. We know it. This takes that away. You get your privacy back. They're not keeping tabs on where you spent what, which is one of the biggest advantages for the people, and one of the main driving factors that, like I said, Harvey designed an entire system. It wasn't just this piece, this part, and that part. The whole system works together. But with the looming digital currency, tokenization of assets, all that kind of stuff, and I think one of the countries was already doing it. I read the other day, or getting ready to launch it. Digital currency was, they control everything. And we've talked about that many times.
There's a lot of things that are happening, and look, what are they doing this for? Because, look, as I've said too, Dee, right? We need people to stand up, right? People need to make a stand. These people have been sleeping, right? Now, we've been talking about this for a long time, way before all this stuff has happened, right? Way before. And they used to call us conspiracy theorists and all that sort of stuff, because that's how they can discredit people, okay? They want to say the real truth. Now, here we are, and it's time for them to wake up. Well, how are you going to wake these sleepwalkers up? You got to make it happen, don't you? So this is exactly what's happening right now. These things are happening so these people can stand up on their soapboxes and get out there and do something about it. Now, I remember back for years, I've been protesting about all this stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
And now here we are again. So now, like I said, the time will come where you're going to get, like, we were the first wave, if you want to call us the first wave. Well, now you've got the second or the third wave reacting. And here we are. How else are you going to get these people awake?
Right.
You got to awaken the sleepwalker in stages. And that's exactly what President Trump's been doing. Now, this artificial intelligence thing is a hot topic. And, I've been speaking about it on the Pulse quite frequently. And then all of a sudden, Tucker speaks about exactly the same thing, right? It just seems to be the same thing over and over again. But anyway, the point of this
message is getting out there, I hope. So,
Well, it is. Because a lot of people are standing up. I mean, look, you're in Louisiana. Now, do you know what's going to happen there, right? They're going to build the world's biggest artificial intelligence center, Meta, are going to build it right there. I heard it's going to be like the size of Manhattan Island or bigger. That's a pretty big chunk of land, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a waste of our natural resources, just a waste.
Well, you think about it. I mean, people think about, what do these data centers do? Now, when you go into Grok and all the rest of that sort of stuff, that's where they come from, right? People think, Grok's on, a little pretty robot there. No, that comes from there, okay? Like ChatGPT, like Insta, like everything else from there. But then also, how do you think they're able to mine coins? It's through artificial intelligence, data centers. They need a lot of energy and resources. Now, these data centers can also rent out space to those that want to mine coins, okay? Do you see what I mean, Dee?
Right. Now, you're talking the crypto. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. They go in there and they grease off the what do you call it? The local representatives. And then the people don't have a leg to stand on, because these people have been elected by the people thinking they're going to do the will of the people. But realistically speaking, they're doing the will of themselves, right?
Right.
And they're greasing their pockets. Now, you think President Trump isn't sitting back watching it all? Remember, never interfere with the enemy destroying itself, right? So you got to let them do the crime, to do the time, right? So we're going to see who's doing what. But then remember, we need infrastructure. He went to China, right? Now, China's huge on AI. Massive, right? Now, you think about this. AI, the genie's out of the bottle. Now it needs to be controlled. Like the godfather of AI said, we need to spend more money on how to control this thing, not to enable it to become more powerful, super intelligent, think it's an AI god, and then think that we're an unnecessary, shit stain on the earth.
Right.
Right?
Oh.
No. President Trump needs to put the infrastructure in place in order to put safeguards. Does that make sense to you, dude?
Well, it makes sense. That's what they're saying. Now, is that possible? That's a whole another idea. Is it possible to control it now? I don't know. I don't know. Well, the only time
Well,
will
even the
tell.
godfather of AI said he doesn't know. What does that tell you?
I don't. We just don't know. Are we past that point?
Well, look, in the Q drops,
We
it
were
does
told about
mention it.
AI 30 years ago. Okay. When did Terminator movies come out? What I quote that line, it said, massive computers tapped into everything, trusted to run it all. And then it saw all humans as the enemy, not just the ones on the other side, right? Have we crossed that line already? We were warned 30 years ago. We were warned about this 30 years ago. And it was all sloughed off and all that kind of stuff. And then here we are, we're on the precipice. We're looking at the beast. We're standing here looking at it and going, okay, what are we going to do?
Isn't it interesting that you got Iran and they got control over that Strait of Hormuz, that thing. And that there's an internet cable that goes across from there to there. And there's also, they got Amazon and all the rest of the gang, artificial intelligence centers all over the place. And they're going to decimate it, right? Now, you think about this. They've been allowed to do this. This has all been allowed by President Trump because over there, as you know, all the debauchery, all the filth, all the child trafficking, all the human trafficking has taken place over there, funded by these, because people think that, these sheiks, they're wealthy, they're not, no, they're trillionaires. They've got money way beyond their means, right? As you know, House of Sword, right? You know what Q says, triple plus, double plus and plus, right? But the thing is, everything has to happen organically, and they have to bring down these entities down that have bad intentions because, yes, they've got AI, but they're not going to use it for the best intentions of humanity. Right.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't trust everybody in the sandbox. So have we, where's that line, and have we crossed it? And only time will tell. We're going to have to hope that he has some good places. But in the meantime, our natural resources are being just devastated for this foolishness.
Yes.
It just makes me sick. And all of this real estate that are sitting in all of these urban areas that are just, commercial buildings, real estate, commercial malls that are abandoned. They could just come and use that. No, they're going to go tear up our land. And you talk about they're going to grease the palms. They're bringing in ships to our refinery they're bringing in oil, right? So this is going to bring us jobs that way. So it's a trade-off. And okay, Mr. Johnson up there, I know you're doing good about everything, but that's the deals he's cutting. That's
Well, he's obviously bought and sold up by the Zionists, right? We know they all.
So he's cutting those deals. So
he's cutting
Louisiana's going to suffer.
He's a puppet. He's one of these little puppets, right, on the string. Now, Macy, which is very interesting. Just a real quick one on Macy. Okay, you think about the budget that has been against him, and I'm talking about millions and millions. He's apparently the biggest, shall we say, the biggest money that's been spent against him is being spent in history, never before, right? That's AIPAC, and all the other Jewish lobbyists. No, say Jewish Zionists. Let's just call it
Zionists.
what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Make sure we
Zionism,
make that
Judaism
distinction.
are
Yeah,
two different things.
that's
Please,
right.
we've got to stop mixing it up.
Make
right?
the distinction. Yeah.
Now, even the Zionists are using the word Jewish, right? Deliberately done by design to blur and,
Mm-hmm.
distort the truth. Now, what I'm saying is this: they are spending ridiculous amounts just to go against one candidate in one, what do you call it? One division or one area of Kentucky?
I thought, was it Maine or Kentucky he was running?
No,
in?
no,
I'm not
Kentucky.
sure.
No,
It's
Kentucky. But you know,
Okay.
you got these divisions, like they're all divided
Uh-huh.
into divisions. Yeah,
Right.
one division. Now, they're spending insane amounts. Why? Because he represents the people. He goes out there and he's the
Oh
one
yeah, he's great.
that brings
I
it
saw
all
that.
out.
Mhm.
Right?
The interview he did, again with Tucker, was phenomenal. I watched the whole thing. I got to know more about him than I ever knew before. I have sent him a copy of the book. I hope that he got it. I sent it to his Washington office. That was months ago. I did not get a reply, so you never wonder if it made it to his desk or not. But I've emailed him, and so I'm hoping to get a response. I hope that he pulls it out. Is the election today? I'm not sure.
Well, basically, at the moment, I've been looking at the stats and the polls and all that. He's ahead.
Good.
Now, what this tells us is grassroots, the power of the people. Now, you think about this. President Trump is going against him, right? But we know that's done by design, right? We know this has all been done by design. We know Macy is with Trump, right? You go to the past, you've seen how President Trump has spoken so highly about him being a champion of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Right? I've got all, right? I've got everything.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, you think about this. He's got to play the game, right? Remember the snakes that are surrounding him, the vipers and all that? He's got to play the game. Now, this is showing what? The power of the people, the will of the people. Now, they're showing how much money, insane amount of money has been spent against him. And he's way in front. He's in front of this other character. How amazing is that? That just gives us
that is
power.
so. I'm so glad to hear that, because was very concerned that he that they would take him out. And when listening to some of the things that he did while he was up there, and some of the bills that almost got by him, he was telling about different things that he said, had I not been there, you'd be doing XYZ now. He was able to go in and stop certain things that they were trying to pass. And I thought, my gosh, he's the only one up there speaking up for us. And I hope he makes it.
Well,
so that's
like
good
I
news.
said,
I'm glad to hear that.
When I go to Washington, the person's hand I want to shake is his. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah.
Because he has basically shown consistency. That's what I love about a real politician. Consistency. Do the will of the people. He was elected to do the will of the people, and that's exactly what he's been doing, right? And he's been. Now remember, these politicians that are like I said, MTG and all the rest of it. I mean, look, there are angles that are being played for a reason, and I said there are certain things that they're doing to expose certain narratives, right? Now, MTG. She's been pushed out there as someone that's been grifting and look, you go by the facts, evidence, and receipts, and it's there, right? But you got to remember there is a narrative being pushed. Ever since she's been copying it, it's been exposing insider trading and how rampant it runs. Right now, well, you think about it. Who was doing it? Who was the queen of it? Pelosi.
Yeah.
Right. So she was speaking against Pelosi, and at the start, I'll never forget, she was exposing her for it. And how ironic, I mean, that she was doing it herself, right? MTG.
Right.
And it's like this, they're exposing narratives. They're doing things like President Trump. I've said he's the scapegoat. That's why they call him the goat, right? He's using himself as a means to bring out narratives, right? To expose It's like he's going to take it for the team and then some. He's been saying, I take all the slings and arrows. He's doing it deliberately by design.
Right.
The other day,
to bring it to light so people will see, and then we can have a situation like the crackdown on insider trading and like like Massey, excelling and moving to the forefront and hopefully get back up there and get back to work. So
now, I know that they know
great.
about Harvey's bill. I know they do,
I got
right?
to.
But it's too, like I said to you, it's way too out there. Like, you know what I mean? They don't, like, remember, this is like, a one crack at the title sort of thing. And they've got to do things in stages and in a certain sequence, right?
And they do. But again, it's not something that he can do. Just say, okay, I'm going to tweet this out and we're going to change it today.
Yes.
Things of this encompassing. This is a system. And again, Harvey has it. The bill he wrote is just incredible. Every detail is covered. I mean, down to what the bills would look like, what things weigh. I mean, all of the formulas, everything. And it's so easy to read. That's what I found about it. But, everything is taken, but it is changing the system, which upsets apple carts across the board. It is a completely citizens monetary system. And that means the citizens are going to be the ones that have to ask for it, demand it. And, go back and forth all the time. I think, well, if people read it and realized how economically enslaved they really are, you can say it and you can put it on the person, but until you digest that concept and really understand it, you don't know how bad it is. When people are hurting bad enough, and I say, well, they're just not hurting bad enough to want to get behind something like this. When you're hurting bad enough, you will, and maybe that's where he's pushing it. Certainly, he's pushing the narrative of, look what I can do. I can walk out. I can change the market just like that, just by saying, poof, boom, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and that's just not how it should work. So hopefully he's demonstrating that fact, but it's all in here. So you want to take some questions?
Yeah, sure. No worries. So I've been putting it, I don't know if you've been seeing, I've been putting it up there. To have your questions answered, put a Q before your question so we can find you in the chat easily.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to find questions. Okay.
We'll roll back up here and see when I can.
You can roll back and we can start taking questions. And now, you know what? Trump belongs to the party of common sense, which is not the left, not the right. Right? It's the party of common sense. Now, people say, but he's a Republican. No, he's got to play that angle. Okay, to expose, because it's not about the left and right. The deep state are in both ways. They operate in both left and right. That's the illusion of democracy. But he's had to take the Republican because, remember, who was his opponent? Wasn't it Clinton? Right? That was his opponent, wasn't it? So obviously he had to get into the Republicans' favor. Now, remember when he was doing that debate business and what happened? Okay. He was speaking against the lobbyists. Do you remember?
Yeah.
He had all of them there and he was speaking against them. Right? Now, he won because of the will of the people. That's why he won. Okay. And remember, he had to, because where we were heading wasn't good. Right? We know we were heading in a very bad direction. Now, as you know, he stepped up. He was a billionaire to begin with. He didn't need all these headaches. He didn't need these threats to his family. He didn't need all the headaches, right? He was a celebrity. Right?
Yeah. He didn't need to do any of this, right?
No, that's why in the Q drops it all makes logical sense. He didn't need it. But what made him stand up? Because you know what? Deep down, he's a good man, right? Yes, we all do things that we're not like. Obviously, he done things in the past It might have been whatever with women and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, right, what really counts is can you be corrupted?
Right. Yeah. And
Right.
I believe that he has, he
Yes.
has the best interest. He has the country's best interest at heart. And he is, he is a good person. Again, why would you do this when you don't have to? If he wasn't,
Well,
I mean, there's nothing to gain, Um,
look,
so-
obviously, there are entities that he's surrounded with that are, because people think the deep state on the left. No, it's on the right too. Please.
No, it's the whole thing. I think that idea is becoming more prevalent.
Yes.
Because people that I know personally who have always been of the opinion that the deep state was the left are now waking up to the realization that it's not. And that's, again, it's more widespread than you think. Okay.
Correct.
That people are coming to that. And it's because of places that, like your show and other people that are putting out that correct information. And so when you start looking at the corruption on both sides, you can see, and yeah, it all needs to be changed. So,
That's right.
okay.
Definitely.
Let me take this question. Is there a GERBRECT, a global equivalent of NESARA, or is it a scam? Thanks. In my opinion, that is a scam, and I'll tell you why. The beginning of the NESARA scam was perpetrated by Sinead Goodwin back about 2000, 2001. She suddenly appeared on the scene. She was fresh off of another scam, and she began promoting NESARA, but not my father's NESARA. Now, my father was still alive at the time, and he was aware of this. Just floored him that someone would come out and, first of all, change the name of the bill. So they called it the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. She claimed that it had been passed in secret, that it was going to be trotted out someday, one day. We're still, people are still waiting for that day. Accused him of all kinds of things. My parents did not have the money to combat that kind of thing, even though he tried, and even with the help of John Tiffany at the American Free Press, worked on it. And finally, in 2005, for posterity's sakes, because my father was terminally ill, that's when he put his entire works in this book and released it so the world would have it. From there, so from that point, as things began to proceed, Goodwin was just raking in the money here, perpetrating this scam. There was nothing that was ever going to happen with that. Was she put up to it? We kind of think that she was, but whatever. How do you expand that and extend that? Well, you take it on the road. So you have the global economic, and so they just added the bill. Now, what this bill ended up, there wasn't a bill. There was never a bill. Harvey's is the only bill with that acronym that we know of, proposed bill, that we're aware of. And believe me, I've searched. She took it on the road, and it is a wish list of a lot of different things. First, everybody will be debt free. It's patents will be released, and world peace, all kinds of stuff that have nothing to do with the original bill that Harvey proposed. So to answer your question, yes, I believe it is a scam, and people are still perpetrating it right up to this very second.
You want me to give you my take? Do you?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I've done the Kraken, and
yeah,
I'm very well versed on this whole thing. Now, number one, the ones that believe in GESARA, okay, as you know, NESARA, right, was Harvey Barnard. That's fact. That's proven documents, everything. We know that's the case, right? What Sinead Goodwin did was take the acronym and, she changed it, right, as you said, right, from Harvey Barnard's to her little contraption that she did. Now, the grift, right, you think about it. You want to make a bigger grift? Let's make it global, right? Now, when people think about the globe, they think about the world being in the round shape, right? That's what they think, the globe, right? Globetrotters. Remember the Globetrotters with the
Globetrotters, yeah.
That was all done by design to make, that's the globe, Okay, and what was the first thing you got taught? You went to school and you saw the globe, right? spinning around. Oh, there's Australia, the arse end of the world. There's America, blah, blah, blah. You get the gist, right? So this is my point, okay? And this is where the contradiction is. You're going to laugh. What does G stand for? What does G stand for? Global, right?
Yeah. And the acronym, yes.
Yes, right. Global. Well, these entities that are pushing this out there are also flat earthers.
Oh no.
You see the contradiction?
That's funny.
So they're pushing it out.
They're pushing it out there, but they believe the earth is
GERBRECHT.
flat. Okay.
No, but do you see what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, yes, and the flat earthers and all these others out there that believe that the earth is like, different shape. I mean, God knows what shape it is. That's beside the point.
Beside the point.
But the point of the fact is that even these flat earth and all these other people that are putting it out there, they're pushing that acronym GESARA.
That's funny.
So what does that tell you? There's a bit of a contradiction there, isn't there?
And then you don't have enough forethought to put that together. So yeah.
Yeah, well, no, because you know what it's all about. It's like this.
It's
funny.
It's
It is funny because it's ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
They basically all they're doing is shooting themselves in the foot. Let's be honest, right?
Right.
And what they're likening it to is let's get the world involved. That's what Sinead Goodwin, because you make more money. It's what it was about. No-brainer. Local, NESARA, national, right?
Yeah.
G, let's drop the N and put the G so we can make more cash worldwide. That makes a world of sense, doesn't it? And sense.
You're absolutely right. And so much so to the point that when I came back, when I emerged on the scene, and I say that because my father passed away and my mom and we had to go to work and we had to make a living. So we just packed all this stuff up and we didn't think about it again. No one was interested. Like now, it's hard to get people to realize that they can make a change in their economy. But anyway, time passed and through, series of events there, I got back in the game. And when I would talk to people about it, and I would say, well, either they'd never heard of NESARA or they said they would look at you and go, oh, yeah, okay, you're one of those. And you were either too woo-woo for the political crowd or too political for the woo-woo crowd. And, nobody wanted to listen. I said, you've got to understand, this is important. This is serious. This is probably one of the most serious things ever. And what I think, all of the scams, all of the conspiracy theories, all of this tops them all. Every one of them. It is like the ultimate scam that they have pulled on the world. It's still going on. And the truth is the most simplest thing and the most valuable information that anybody could have. And nobody knows it. But us and the few people I'm watching. And again, I do believe that that President Trump knows. I've sent him 2 copies and he was nice enough to respond. So I know that he has read it. So.
You know what? Okay, just to add another little quick one. So the term, the globalists, right? Now, think about this. Sinead Goodwin, right, had to be funded somehow. You know where I'm going with this, right?
Oh, yeah. We figured that out.
You think about this. How ironic that she created GESARA, or they created the drop the N and put the G as well for the global grift. And remember, she was funded by, we know there are other entities involved because how was she able to get such a push? You know what I mean? You need resources, you need money,
resources,
and so forth and so forth. Right? Now, remember your dad, he sent something to good old Billy Clinton, didn't he? Okay. And we know that obviously they got the letter that was all, confirmed.
Yeah.
Now, what do you do? Remember the CIA and all them, how they operate, deception, right? Deception and how they work. Let's discredit something. It's like everything else. It's about discrediting. So, in other words, rather than drawing attention to something,
They just made it up. They just made it a circus. Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there are certain entities that are, shall we say, planted, and plants need water, as you know, to grow. Right?
It's a nice way of looking
And
at
so
it.
did
There you
Sinead
go.
Goodwin.
Yeah.
Didn't
Yeah.
she?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And then what ended up happening is Sinead Goodwin's little creation ended up getting fertilizer. In other words, bullshit, all right, added to the mix. Okay. And that fertilizer continues to grow the fungus that we see today
Yeah. You're right.
that discredits Harvey's work.
Well, yeah, when Harvey put it out in '96 on his website at the time, he put the bill out. And the like I said, the bell had been rung. There was nothing that because he had been up to Washington all through the early '90s, and he kept going back. He didn't just go once; he went all the time. He went up there, he and his buddy, and see people, talk to people, and so they knew that this was discussed in some back room somewhere. I can guarantee you.
Mhm.
And so once it was out in the public domain, like I said, that bell was rung. There wasn't anything they could do with it. Hurting him or coming after him in some way would have done nothing. Okay.
Hurting him or trying to go after him.
Yeah, or us. I mean,
amplified
it does.
that thing.
It amplifies it. It does nothing.
Yes.
So what they did was, what's the first step in that playbook? You discredit. You make it look like
Exactly.
foolish fringe. And you know, you've read the chapter afterward, the NESARA story, where they talk about all the stuff that she attached to it and how it got out of
But
hand.
then
It
it
got.
continued on. I mean, it went from her to others and others.
Yeah.
and
Through the
others and others.
timeline, you know, we've done that
Yeah.
timeline progression, and she had it. Then Miss Nancy Detweiler had it. They were both living at the same time. She
Mhm.
passed away, and then it went on to Stephen someone. And in each era that comes by, it starts off with the fish story, and the fish keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and to now we have it's trickled down into all the in the early, well, when Trump first.
Well,
When Q first came out, it
noticed
got
the
mixed up
pattern.
with Q. And so now that's how it made that connection. And it's mixed up with the Galactic Federation. So basically what these con artists did was they looked around and said, okay, okay, how can I put you in this car today? You believe what? Oh, we got that one for you. Okay. Oh, you over here, okay, we got that. You know, whatever they needed to sell them, to get them on board for their subscriptions and t-shirts and conventions and promises that are never going to come true.
Well, let me give you the lowdown as well. I mean, I like timelines, right? Like just like you know, when timelines means facts. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk facts. The time that all this happened with Shanae, it would have been around the time of 9/11, right? Nice little catastrophe. I didn't call it nice. It's shit. Absolutely, it was disgusting what happened. Right? Now, you think about that. In any catastrophe that's so major like that, they take advantage of it and they make money. Right? So obviously they use that little thing. You know, the thing with what she said, that whole little spiel. You know what I'm talking about, right? She used it. Right? Then come around to 2012. The end of the world with the Mayan calendar. That is the other one, because I've been doing the timelines, and it's like, okay, when did this come out? When did that come? And it just seems to marry up with that. So
everything kind of coincides with the new. Yeah.
Good old Mr. James Rink. We're forgetting about him. Yeah, that was around that time as well. These other videos came out, and then there was the other guy that just died recently. What was his name? Yes,
there was
Hitchcock.
James.
Or David.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear about that.
Was it
one.
Hitchcock or no? David Hancock or something. Was it something like that? I've forgotten what his name is. Yeah. So about the UFOs and all that sort of stuff. And then he mixed in some business as well with, you know, whatever. And then you got COVID. Now, that was the other point that they decided. So it's always when there's something to do with fear that all of a sudden you've got the fear that comes in. Wilcox. Sorry, thank you, Carol. Wilcox.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
I know it was
Carol
some
to
sort
the
of cock, but we
rescue.
got there in the Hancock, Wilcock, whatever it is. But anyway, do you see what I mean? Like, it's like
Yeah.
they take advantage
I was looking
of
to see
humanity. They drive them to a point of fear. Then in comes the hero, Shanae Goodwin, right, with the NESARA business, the Sudan.
Right.
The 2012, then it was Mr. Wilcock, and then I think it was then after that was Mr. Rink at some point came in. When he came, what was that movie called?
Waiting for NESARA. Yeah.
No. That was back in the Shanae Goodwin's day.
Oh, that's
His was
okay, so it
called
was
something on the horizon.
on the horizon. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, change. Was it change?
Change on the
or something?
horizon. Yeah.
I'm going to find out the date of that because I'm about timelines, right? Change on the horizon. Now, with what's his name, Rink. Now, when did that come out? Let's have a look. Change on the Horizon, 130-page book, and it was to do with NESARA again, right? The same business. Now, it's called Change is on the Horizon. And that book, I'm just trying to find when it was written.
Okay. I got my my timeline up. You want me to share it?
Yes, please. You could do that,
Okay.
and I'll just do this in the meantime.
Okay. I want to answer Kathy's question real quick before I'm just going to stop real quick. Sales tax she said 2% on everything is 12%, and delete all other taxes. It's fair, but is a really brilliant idea. Okay, so here's the tax thing.
Right.
It's sales percent of national sales tax of 12%. But that does not take into effect local taxes. Harvey didn't get involved with state taxes or local sales tax or anything like that. But for the tax to replace the income tax, it would be a 12% tax on purchased items that qualify. Okay.
I've got a good memory, and
I know.
serves
Okay,
me
here's
correctly.
my timeline. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. You should add this one to your timeline as well.
Okay.
Okay. Because you go do yours first, and then I can show you mine.
Well, this is just the PDF. I didn't come across the I have it on a slide where I can blow it up. But this is what I was telling you guys. So how we just got off into the weeds this evening, didn't we? Okay, so Shanae Goodwin in 2000, 2001, that was right around the 9/11, what you were talking about. She kept this going. Let's see, 2004 was added the Galactic Federation. NESARA must occur before Ascension's secret program funds, light workers, all of that was dumped into the story. This is when the stars, websites for star seeds and that kind of stuff were out there. Miss Nancy Detweiler jumped on board. She added the St. Germain Trust, the Ascended Master Oversight, NESARA as God's Plan and Prosperity Programs. She had a website that she used as well. She and Shanae worked on things together, I guess, back and forth, playing each other, probably back and forth, until 2009, 2012. And then we had Mr. Steve Becklow. He added, like I said, the fish story just keeps growing, right? NESARA is divinely coordinated, ET disclosure required before NESARA. So they're saying that the ETs have to come before we can have economic reform. Will eliminate work money in the long run, amplify Detweiler's work. So he capitalized on Nancy Detweiler's work. And this is when the event, 2010 to 2012, NESARA announcement soon. That falls into the timeline you were referring to. NESARA becomes linked to 2012 Ascension hype. That was Becklow did that, Steve Becklow. We continue, let's see, 2015 to 2017. This is when Global NESARA appears online. The BRICS nations adopting NESARA was added in. Global debt forgiveness, quantum financial system. Worked all of that. And this is when it hit platforms like YouTube, Gaia TV, New Age Telegram groups. 2018, they brought Trump into the story. Alliance versus Cabal War. Trump cooperating with QFS was added to the story. Platforms, QAnon forums, 8chan, Telegram. 2020, still more of the same. This is when we jump into the game with the XRP, the XLM, Bitcoin. Y'all got tied up to GERBRECHT, IMF and World Bank secretly switching to gold. 2021 to 2023, NESARA GERBRECHT debt forgiveness claims, tens of millions see pseudo NESARA for the first time. So this is when it kind of really hit the big mainstream, I guess, probably. 23 to 25. So same things. We got, and we've been in the game since then. So we've been out here debunking all of this.
I think it might be time for you to update a few little things in that little calendar over there.
I'd be glad to.
Okay. Number one, okay, let me just bring my screen in and I can show you what I've got.
Okay.
Because you're going to add this to this one as well.
Yeah.
And it all makes the world of sense, guys. I mean, when you look at things logically, right, you can see. So the Mayan calendar, basically, we were due to have the end of the world, remember, December the 21st, 2012. Now, I would say that's probably the world's biggest catastrophe if that was to happen. Let's be honest. It would be a real bummer. Now, remember, that was out there, right? You remember that? And then all of a sudden, you remember Hollywood jumped in, did the movies, 2012, and all the destruction into the world and all that other crap, right, that went with it. And everyone was milking that whole thing. You remember that? They were milking that whole thing. Okay. Now, who was also milking it? Right? Good old James. Now, James knew what he was doing. Oh, don't you worry about that one. With change on the horizon, and guess when he brought that out? That book that speaks about that right there, good old Janae Goodwin stuff, National Economic Security and Reformation Act, right? Have a look at the date. October the 25th, 2012, just in time to make cash. You know what I mean? And reap the benefits of the end of the world to do with the Mayan calendar. You see? So fear, we got the fear going on. And then comes James with NESARA, Shanae Goodwin's, the Ascended Masters and all that sort of crap. Do you see what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's how they do. And, you and I, we've been at this, over a year now. And so working together, we've been working independently, but we, found each other about a year ago. So it's, they're going to continue to reinvent and figure out whatever angle I can do to go back at it. And even when, you brought me out on the Kraken and they didn't expect me. They took a collective gasp and went, and they pulled back. But they, because we are so shadow banned and restricted from platforms and stuff like that, they can continue on. Again, like I said earlier, they're no threat to anybody. The powers that be don't care if they bilk people out of money.
No, because
it's
I want them to
not
be
hurting
dumb.
no skin off their nose. Right.
Well, you look, the common denominator is this. When there's a catastrophe or an impending end of the world,
they're going to be there waiting.
Scenario.
They're going to be there.
9/11, Shanae Goodwin. Right? 2012, good old James comes in with it. Right? Right? Then come into 2020, COVID.
Yeah.
And it's always the same thing. These con artists seem to manifest themselves, and it's a consistent pattern. Can you see the pattern, D, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. Totally. Yeah.
And hopefully people can see it in the chat too.
I hope they can too. Like, here was a question here. Let's see if we can jump this one. Will the corruption be stopped and the taxes we pay actually fix our bridges and roads and infrastructure? Great question. Okay, so number one, will the corruption be stopped? That's up to the citizens. You have to educate yourself, get behind this, talk to your representatives, talk to your neighbors and friends, bring it out of the shadows and into the forefront. If you go to my Facebook page, I have a list on there. If you scroll down a little bit, there is a place with all the representatives' email addresses on there. Get in touch with yours, send them and ask them. I tell them, I said, have you read this book? In fact, I think I've got a sample in there of what you can email to them. I want a book report on this. If you represent me, I want to know why you haven't discussed it. Now, what will the taxes be used for? That is going to depend on what we, the people, vote. It's our government. If the money's going to our federal government, then it's federal projects or to support the Fed. And so that remains to be seen. But that's would be the idea. So we would hope so. Thank you for your question. I appreciate it. I hope you're able to get a copy of the book.
Another fun fact, they use bridges, roads, infrastructure as a slush fund. So what they would do is,
a lot of it
you think about this, right? So they would get the contractors and all them to overprice, right? So they could receive more each time, right? So anything happened. Now, those monies went into pockets, right? Let's be honest.
Right.
Bridges, all these bridges and all these things and all. No. What did this is what I'm saying, guys. You got to look at what President Trump is doing. And he's doing it deliberately by design. With the pool, the reflection pool, I think the deep state are reflecting the end of their lives right now in that pool. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see where you're going with
he
this.
said that it was going to cost, remember, they said it was going to cost $300 million or whatever it was, some ridiculous amount. I can't remember, right? But it was a ridiculous amount of money, right? To fix this thing. And what did President Trump say? We can do it just over $1 million, right? Or whatever it was, right? He's showing you that they use infrastructure to be able to, all right, they'll get someone to fix it for $1 million.
Yeah.
But where does the $299
million
go?
In the pockets
how
of the
smart President Trump
fund.
is?
Right.
He's doing it deliberately by design. This is why he makes it a point. It's only going to cost us this amount of money. It's not going to cost us this amount of money that they said it was going to cost. He's showing you that they use infrastructure. You think about it, $299 million. In others, we know the deep state's pocket, but that's just one project. Think about all the bridges and the roads and all these other things that they overcharge, and they tell the contractors to do it deliberately by design because they get money, right? Overinflated budgets. Doge was done by design as well. You know what I mean, Dee?
Right, exactly. And that it goes right back into the pockets of the politicians. And sometimes it goes directly or sometimes it goes through the guise of campaign contributions. That's been a huge thing. The money that gets sent overseas into a lot of these different funds and stuff comes back into this country in the form of campaign contributions to specific politicians. And it is tagged with people who don't even know that they've ever donated. I'm saying names of people. And, I've given the episode of like a little retired lady, maybe living in Oklahoma, and she's donated $200,000 to some candidate. And if you go look at her place, she lives in a trailer on a flat piece of land with not much of anything. If she had $200,000, she surely wouldn't be living there. Exactly. And you knock on her door and you ask her, "Hi, ma'am, she says, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Well, that's how they'll funnel it back in. And a lot of that stuff came out during the election investigations and stuff. But that's how they do it. They have all kind of little ways to snake it back in. So
they do. They have all these little back doors, and that's what Doge is created for.
Yeah.
To expose all because
a lot of that.
You think about it, right? Sesame Street and all the rest of the other ridiculous stuff, condoms for whatever it was. All the ridiculous stuff. This is done by design to show you that they use a multitude of slush funds, because slush funds aren't just the Red Cross or war and stuff like that Q speaks about. That's big dollars, trillions.
Yeah.
But there are millions and billions siphoned off in different directions, in different ways, like through infrastructure, as I mentioned. You know what I mean? They overinflate things. These presidential libraries and all that sort of stuff. That's the other thing. President Trump says over budget, over why? Why?
Yeah.
He's showing you. They do it deliberately. Obama's one, right? To funnel money.
And so, when you have that kind of exposure and you really say, okay, what does it really take to run the government and to run the infrastructure and get down to a common sense, real life budget, you can see that we have enough money our taxes are plenty enough.
Um,
We can have a 12% sales tax, even with all the exclusions in Harvey's proposed bill, and still have enough money by spending it wisely, like what it should be, and without the overinflation, without the slush funds, and
if the
deals and stuff.
if the corrupt government was to give us all our money back from all the corruption that they've done,
Yeah.
we'll be eating out of gold spoons, ladies and gentlemen, each and every day, a different one.
And that'll never
you know?
happen. And you know, we had that question once before, will we ever get our money back? And I said, no, it doesn't work that way. Well, you pick up from where you start and you move on. And you've got to realize, it's your kids and your grandkids that will benefit from this change. Okay. And working people today, people in my age bracket, hopefully we'll get to, if it comes about, we'll get to see some benefits from it, but mostly it's for the young people. And that's really where we need to get this information into their hands, because they need to understand it. I've gone out to, a couple of the little schools around here and said, look, guys, I need some economic students to get behind this. That hopefully kind of lead into this question. How do you see the transition when it comes? I don't know there's going to be a transition, because I don't know. Well, I do know not enough citizens are getting this and talking to the representatives about it. And I hear the same thing all the time. Well, Representative's crooked. He doesn't care. That doesn't matter. Okay. You have to continue to be diligent in your request. In other words, if you look around, look at your news stories, look what's on your TV, look at the issues that we're discussing. We're still discussing bathrooms. Are you serious? Okay. How many years are we going to discuss bathrooms and what is your pronoun preference and that kind of stuff? Why are those things issues? Because people keep bringing them up and keep pushing them out on the forefront. If people, like my email thing is on a dial, it automatically emails all these representatives on a weekly basis. If that was done in mass by people all over the country, they're gonna have to talk about it. And that's what it's going to take. So, and I hope that we can actually see at least have a national discussion. We're owed that much as citizens of this country. We at least should have an open discussion about it. Thanks for your question. What else you got? I lost you. I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I pressed the button.
I thought it was me. I was like,
no, that's okay. Thank you for reminding me, love. Thank you very much, Carl. He's on YouTube there. Thank you.
Okay.
Now this character, that one right there, the one that's on the screen, right? I'm not talking about Carl. I'm talking about the one he's referring to. Okay. I've exposed her on the Kraken, right? This little entity over here. She's been one of the major ones playing with the other major players about the fake NESARA. Okay. Now, she's been exposed. Now she was making a lot of money, grifting and lying and deceiving people. Okay. Giving them all this false crap about it, right? Now, no, I'm glad that Carl stood up to her and obviously put some great remarks. So well done, mate. Keep up the good work.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
We all need to do our bit. It's all grassroots. Okay.
That's right.
We've got to let people know the truth. Okay. Now, what you need to do is to send links to D's Facebook and all that sort of thing, where they can find the information, the correct information. We need to empower people with the truth. Okay. And this is the thing. Those podcasters out there, they know about this. They can't sit there and deny that they don't, we didn't know. They know. They know. Right? They know it from every direction. Now, if they don't know, then they're not doing their due diligence and doing their proper research, right? They're going out there spreading falsehoods instead of doing their due diligence. Because you know what, D? The moment I type in Google, NESARA, what comes up is your father's.
I had to work really hard for that. We both worked hard. When you jumped in with it last August,
it was a battle. For a year, I trained Chat GBT. It took me months, because we've talked about how that works. And Wikipedia, I still can't get, I got some things corrected, but I can't get it all corrected. Yeah, that was because you used to type it in and it brought the Shanae Goodwin story and all of that kind of stuff. And when I started with chat trying to get, because they just, these AI, especially in the early stages like that, they just bring in information from all sources and they compile it into one spot. And then they the computer sorts it, and it's going to take them the top of whatever's trending or the most recent information it can get. And so I had to start, literally arguing with bots on the computer to finally get them to understand. And it took a little while, but it finally, they through other fact sources that I could supply, like again, like back to the American Free Press, the sources of other articles that we had, pictures of, and actual recording that you can get on the website of Harvey and that radio interview, all of that kind of data that was historical. I had to get it in the mainstream. Also,
right? These people, they've got no excuse. I'm sorry. Because number one, they know what they're doing. They're going around and they have been profiteering for a long time off this Shanae Goodwin business, right? And like I said, they're going out and make movies as well. You know what I mean? You've seen the documentaries on this pseudo-NESARA business, okay? So you think, no, they didn't know. They know. If they're filmmakers, documentary people, if they're podcasters, they have the responsibility, the moment they put on this microphone, to put out the right information, the correct information based on facts, evidence, and receipts. And none of them do it.
That's true.
Right? We do it. And the problem is this. The algorithm doesn't consider them to be a threat because the people want to engage with them because they want to believe in the fantasies. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's the reality. They want to believe in the lie and the deception, okay? Because that's what attracts people. It's to do with engagement. So that's how the algorithm works. The more people you can engage with, the more popularity you receive. And then you think about this. Is the truth popular? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The real truth, not the truth that they claim and rebadge and whatever, and they call it the truth. No, the real truth is a threat. Have a look what they've been doing to Dr. Harvey F. Barnard for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? And to D. To this very day. Right? She should be out there, right, all over the place, viral. So what does that tell you? Who's controlling the tap? Who's controlling the flow of information? True?
Oh, absolutely true. And I got reminded again this week, I did the little video that you put out on Telegram. I put it on my Telegram. I've got it on, I have just a little small YouTube channel. I'm going to start adding more videos now. But I put it on my Facebook page, and then I was going to boost it. And if people who know Facebook, they know what that means. It's like running an ad from a video.
Yes.
And which I do it all the time, and I've gotten pretty good success. But it kicked it back, and it would let me do it, and argue with it. And
Facebook.
On Facebook, yeah, on Facebook. And so it
doesn't surprise me.
It said, political, blah, blah, blah. And I said, wait a minute, usually if you file a objection or whatever, they'll go ahead and do it. But this time they wouldn't. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you get to the last end, if you want to play it, we can. I definitely want to show my YouTube channel and give people the link here so that they can go to it. They can look it up. And I want people to go play it. And let's see if it's going to, let's test this out on YouTube and see how many we can get. And if it's going to shadow ban us on YouTube. But the last line, when I'm talking about the actual book, I state it plain up. I said that no one who is in the system, who benefits from it, has any motivation to help us change it, period. And I don't think it liked that. So
Well,
I
Sarah
think it
Parks,
just goes, wait a minute, we're not going to play that. So, yeah.
Sarah Parks has something to say to you right there. You want to read that?
Oh, okay. I see far less of do call
Paul.
Dr. Scott Young says many people are aware of true NESARA. I do see far less of is that so-called?
So
I don't
in
know
other
what
words, do people, well, you need to rephrase that, Sarah, just so
yeah, so I understand. Yeah,
Yes.
Dr. Scott Young does refer to Harvey, I think, in his books, and I don't think he refers to Harvey, but he does use the correct bill name. Where I part ways with Mr. Young, and I have written him many times, I've never gotten a response. I quit writing.
You won't.
But was that my father was in no way religious at all. This has nothing to do with religion, end of days, anything like that. It is a purely economic fiscal bill. Okay. None of that is involved. In fact, that's touched upon in the chapter afterward, the NESARA story by Mr. John Tiffany.
He's touched on Sinead Goodwin's. There's flavors of Sinead Goodwin through his work. Don't you worry about that as well. I've seen it.
Yeah.
What he's doing is inexcusable. And because he's been making a lot of money off his books and going around the place selling his wares. No. People need to stop enabling those kind of characters.
They do. Hey, there's a funny one. Let me go back to it. Okay. Oh, I just saw it. Okay. All right. This one came from, is it Monterey 16? Okay. I forgot all about the Galactic Federation. Let me tell you a little story. Remember, FC, when you and I, we would we go to the grifters channels and we would look and we would see for entertainment purposes only.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now the Galactic Federation was huge. And they promoted the fake NESARA a lot.
Oh,
and all of this stuff. And I saw it. In fact, that's how I found out they did, because I saw the name on one when you're scrolling and I went, oh, wait, look. And of course they started talking about it. And another thing I said, this is all BS. And so I went, I put them in a comment and that kind of stuff. But after a while, they came back with not only a disclaimer saying entertainment purposes only, but it was the first thing you saw. And I said, okay, they know that we're here and that we're checking up on them. And that,
well, they're getting exposed, right? So people need to start using their discernment and their brain cells, right? They have to do that. Now, the extraterrestrial has become a hot topic, as from you've seen it, right? UFO.
Yes, it has become a hot topic lately.
Yeah, a very hot topic. Now, if they were to give me an opportunity and say you have one question to ask the ETs, right? Can you show me where the Galactic Federation is, please?
Is that the question you would ask? Okay.
Where's can you tell me where I can find the Galactic Federation? Because I want to go and ask them about the ascendant Jesus and where's Saint Germain
there's a lot
from
of
the ethereal
questions,
plane. I know there's a lot there, but it's all connected to the Galactic Federation. You know what I mean? So it's all connected into that one main question. Can you show me, or tell me about the Galactic Federation? Are they real? Do they exist? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And they probably look at me like, you must be some sort of dumb human.
Well, listen, I'm not here. And I said in the beginning, neither am I, or Harvey didn't care. But I'm not here to dispel anybody's beliefs. It doesn't matter to me.
They can believe
everyone
in the
has
theories in
their
the
own.
backyard for all I care.
Absolutely can. And I don't care about your religion. I don't care about your sexual orientation. Any of that kind of stuff. That is your private business, as it should be. What we're dealing with are facts, evidence, and a way to make our monetary system work for the people, not for the government and for the people in power. The elite, what you can call them, whatever you want to. And so, people are like, they're free to worship and believe in whatever they want. And that's fine with me. So.
And as long as just, don't force me to, back to the freedom of religion. So,
well, that's it. Everyone's entitled to their beliefs. Now,
was pain.
obviously, like I spoke about that, used to read that one there.
Yeah, I see that.
Entity again has been obviously, look, they're going to make money. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, that's what they're there for. They're not there to help humanity. It's all a front. Okay. Just like the Zimbabwe dollars and all that sort of crap. We're still waiting for those Zimbabwe dollars to go up so we can go into the Galactic Federation and ask them to, or whatever it is, you
got to go to the RV redemption centers. Yeah, right.
All that sort of stuff. And apparently some alien's going to put his hand on your heart or something, and he's going to work out whether or not you're worthy
it's
or not.
A little mix of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, where they weigh your soul and they decide if you're worthy. That was woven into part of that redemption center thing. They would have to decide if you were worthy enough to qualify. So
what's the thing where
just
some
interesting stuff out there, I'll tell you.
Yeah, isn't it Chinese whispers? Is that what you call it? Or the grapevine, where you hear something and then it becomes something else at the other end. It just turns into some other beast. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Well, I've always just heard, I guess, for us sportsmen down here, it was just always the big fish story. It starts off like this, and the reality is I caught a little fish, and by the end of it, it's I caught this huge fish.
Exactly that. And that's the thing. I mean, everyone seems to it's like the one-upsman. You know what I mean? Scenario. That's what I want to call the one-upsman. That's right. So one goes out there and puts his little fantasies out there, right? Then the next one grabs that and does the one-upsman and adds more fictitious embellishments. And then it becomes, shall we say, a monstrosity at the end.
Right. Exactly. By the end of it. Yeah.
Think about this. Harvey Bernard's work is exactly what I'm describing.
Yeah.
Right? It became a monstrosity.
It did.
Unrecognizable of what he was saying.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't his work. And that's the whole point.
It became another beast.
They created all of this to keep his work but the conspiracy story is the crazy thing in itself. That all of these years it's been going and going and going, and the truth was always something so much simpler that never had anything to do. The truth never had anything to do with backroom deals, meeting with presidents. The CIA never was signed in clandestine rooms. Has never been in outer space. Never been in none of that stuff has ever happened. And
look, let me tell you something. A little kid would say, "Now you're telling me lies," right? At a certain point, you keep lying and deceiving. The kid will wake up and say, "No, you're telling me lies." No, people are a lot older, and they're still believing the fairy tales. Yeah. I don't get it. There must be some sort of phenomenon that I'm not aware of.
It's
you know what I mean?
They want hope. And so and that's all they're being offered. And okay, I'm going to stand in their defense for a minute.
Sure,
I'm not, people who are taken in by these con artists and grifters are fed up. They're tired. They're at wit's end. They don't know where to go. They are looking for help, relief, hope, anything. And right now, they're not getting anything else but what's on that center stage being offered to them. And even if it's a lie, they're going to send in their money. They don't know about this. Okay. Yes. Now, on that note, let's see if we can change that a little bit. Let me see if you can. I'm going to add this to the stage here.
You go for it.
Okay.
Have I taken mine off? Yeah.
I don't know.
There you go. I'll take mine off.
Okay. So, all right, let me make this big here. I don't know if we can. All right. So this is my YouTube. NESARA Institute, but you have to look up the original NESARA by Harvey F. Bernard. And if you do that, these are just a few little videos. This is the one, and I'll get FC to play it for you. I think you have it. It'll probably be easier for you to play it than me.
Yeah.
That's the one that I just did. But look for the original NESARA by Harvey F. Bernard. This is the economic whiplash. This is everything I did tonight, but only in 5 minutes, and it will sum it up for you. And I want you to share, and let's see how far we can make it go, because Facebook won't let me post it. They let me put a post, but they would not let me boost it out to like getting,
if you pay for an ad, you can reach like 1,000
Mhm.
people a day or something, but you pay for that, which
They
is
won't let
fine. I
me
do that all the time.
Do any of that, you know that? Because I'll tell you my story.
Hmm.
Now, as
This
you
is my
know,
Facebook page.
right, everything's run with artificial intelligence, right? So they're doing
Yeah.
away with the human element of
Mhm.
you can sit there and have a decent conversation, have someone that comprehends what's going on and be able to sort it out for you, right? Well, not anymore. Okay. That's why these meta centers are building artificial intelligence, and so they're still making all the money, right? All the
Mhm.
money. But they removed all their employees. They're gone, right? They replaced them with artificial intelligence. So now you're spent. You're wasting your time in a merry-go-round arguing a
Arguing with
simple
a bot.
point, right? Not arguing, stating with facts, evidence, and receipts, showing them the facts, evidence, and receipts, and you're trying to reason with artificial intelligence. No, good luck with that one.
Yeah.
I was put on a merry-go-round from hell, right? With artificial intelligence until you get so, because you think about this, artificial intelligence doesn't get tired, doesn't get pissed off, doesn't have any feelings, and it will take you right to the depths of hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And make sure that you get tired before it doesn't get tired, right?
All right.
That's what happens. Now, I've been arguing with artificial intelligence about a certain point, and I was penalized. You know what I was penalized, D? Over a statement that was made by Julian Assange, and I proved it. And yet, because they called what he said a conspiracy theorist, right, I copped the brunt of it. And I had to be penalized, and therefore I can't advertise on Facebook. I can't stream on Facebook. No. I've been penalized. And then I said, when will that penalty be removed? Just keep looking. That was my answer. Just keep an eye out. That not a specific time.
You can't
not
get
a
to a
date.
person. Mm-hmm.
And I'm still waiting after a year. Guys, after a year.
Oh,
Because of one post that was proven by Julian Assange. He was the one that said it. And obviously, if he said, all I'm doing as a journalist is quoting. That's it. And showing the quote. I was penalized. Do you see what I mean, D? And that's what I'm saying. This is all being deliberately done by design because they don't want certain elements getting out.
That's right.
Certain truths.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they gave me a rejection, and then you can type in, your appeal. Of course, you know the drill. You type in your appeal, but it says underneath that, we will look at your appeal information, but we're still not going to grant your request to boost your post. It's like, okay, well, I'm still registering my appeal. But yeah, you're going to find out. They will find out eventually that people will find other ways to communicate. You can only treat us that badly for so long. And people get tired of AI. They're already tired of the AI commercials. A lot of people, if they don't see someone talking or it's a face or something, they just skip over it. At least people in that I've associated with, or my age bracket for sure, they're not going to fool with that, and they're certainly not going to. Business people aren't going to put up with that.
Well, they seriously need the truth to come out, but this is the thing: you got to remember that the algorithm is the king. That's it. It's the, how you got the bridge and you got the troll. That's what it is. It's the troll on the bridge waiting for you to try and get across, and it stops you. Okay. Now, it doesn't get tired. You're not reasoning with a human. You're trying to reason with artificial intelligence, and artificial intelligence is what it's called machine learning constantly, but it's still not going to have the capability and the sympathy or the empathy or the compassion of a human.
No,
because
it's not.
What you could say, like, listen, look, right, you explained like I did. I explained my case. Then I said, I'm happy to remove it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know what my parameters are, and not to, know what I need to do. No, doesn't care about the empathy. No, doesn't care about the sympathy or the compassion.
No.
All it knows is this: you did this, that means this, and
Right.
that's the end result. You know what I mean? That's how it is, and that's what it does to you, D, and it does to me.
Oh yeah, it does. And like I said, people will get tired of that and they'll just stop using those platforms. And that's going to grow and grow and grow. As people get tired of this lack of control, lack of empathy, lack of customer service, and we are the product. Okay, me using that platform, you're getting my information to sell me things. So I'm the product. So when I disengage, and more people will do that, and it's just going to take time.
Well, this is the problem too, D. Number one, okay,
don't
so
change
let's
their
talk about
tune.
the platforms, right? So you got YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Well, we know Insta is under Meta, Facebook, right? It controls the whole threads and all that sort of crap. Then you got all the other ones like X and all that, and they all work on the same principle, guys.
Yeah.
And they all are owned right up the top by the very same entities. Okay, that's the thing. So in other words, you got this illusion. Oh, it's different on X. It's different. No, it's different nowhere. Okay, they're giving you different flavors. It's like this. Over there you get strawberry. Over there you get vanilla. Over there you get chocolate, but it's still ice cream in the end, isn't it?
That's right.
And it belongs all in the same cone, right? Now that's how it is. And right up the top, they're giving you this illusion that they're different. They've got the different flavors, different ways. That's the illusion. It's like the left and the right, the far left, the far right. It's all serving the same Satan in the middle, right? Now, you think about this, okay? I've tried to reason with X, good old Grok. No, same deal with Meta, same deal with all of them, okay? And then you got these, they spank you, like, you'll find out that they. Oh no, I've copped it with ScrewTube quite a few times.
I've been booted off several of.
Yeah, I had my hand slapped and all that. But then you got Rumble, right? Now Rumble, they call far right or right, whatever you want to call it, right? Freedom of speech, right? Let's talk about freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means to be allowed to speak, right, and to be heard, meaning heard on the wide scale, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Now, this is what people got to get. Rumble control the tap. When I mean control the tap, no, you could speak till you're blue in the face, right? Because that's freedom of speech. But it's who hears the speech. So in other words, they decide who gets to hear your message to the wider audience. In other words, non-followers. That's what they call it in the algorithm, non-followers. Right?
Non-followers.
So what happens is, D, for example, with you, you're bringing out the truth. You're being flooded by, see, the majority rules, right? Basically, all the others are talking against what Harvey Epinard, but they're using the same name, right? Or the same, but there could be this different. What do you call it?
They're making money off of his acronym. Is they're using the acronym, but they're making
the acronym, isn't it? Isn't it the acronym that's changed, and it's the NESARA, so National Economic.
They call it NESARA, but they refer to the Sinead Goodwin's NESARA, which is the National Economic Security and Reformation Act, which there never was anything. Ask them to produce it. We've been down that road. They can't. They use that acronym from the bill to connect it to something legitimate to give it, but it's not the same.
So why? This is my question, right? So you got all these entities out there. The majority, well, we were the minority, and we're the ones in the right. We're the correct, right? And they're lying, they're deceiving, they're false, right? And they're going out there and they're spreading their message, and they're getting to the non-followers. Now, you think about this from this perspective. Non-followers, right? They're saying, oh, that is a conspiracy theory. So, in other words, anything you try to get out gets painted with the same brush because of them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
That's
So you
right,
can
that's
say
right.
the truth and then the majority rules, therefore the algorithm favors the majority, right? Because it means more money for the company, right? Let's be honest.
Right.
Rumble make a lot more money on advertising, to their followers, right? Because they've got a larger audience and they're making more money because it's all about the money. It's nothing to do with the truth. So realistically speaking, it's not freedom of speech. Let's be honest. Freedom of speech is allowing it to reach the far corners. You know what I mean?
Right. It's having equal play time, equal time.
Exactly.
Equal presentation time. And
but that's
not
the
happening.
buys.
And
That's the flavor.
Yeah. Until someone that has that kind of reach, puts this out and says, wait a minute, we've been being lied to all of this time. This is the truth. This is the real bill. These are the
Like
real
Tucker.
people, like Tucker, and somebody with that kind of reach, where it's up to us. And that's why we have to start, like I said, sharing stuff. And FC talked to me earlier about getting what'd you call it? Linktree.
Linktree.
I want to set up a Linktree so I can
easy.
put it out there, make it easy for you guys to get on the platform. So as I start posting more stuff, and but check out the YouTube there, and the next couple of days I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna take my backlog of videos that I have on my Facebook and load them all up on my YouTube. Even though there's good things still about the silver market, the commercial loan market, mortgages, all that kind of those good videos that I did.
But you know what I mean, Dee? Look, you can see that what we are against. And logically speaking, when you against those sort of odds, all we can do is do everything grassroots. Now, Rumble and YouTube, the way they work, they don't want that message getting out there to the non-followers, right? And neither does Facebook, and neither does the rest of them, right? So what we're doing is we're attracting organic. So organic's different to non-followers. So you got followers, people that follow us, that are organic. Now, what we need is them to tell their friends and their friends and their friends, and to build it grassroots style.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, we don't have the access to the non-followers because the algorithm is king and is closed access to that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, it stops us from reaching new followers. Yeah.
Correct. And building the platform, so therefore we can get more reach and get the information out there and bring out the truth. Now, like you said, you need someone like Tucker Carlson that we can go on there and really give it, you know what I mean, and bring out the truth. And because really that would be a game changer right there.
Can you imagine that it would bring justice to the people who have bilked all these people out of these millions and millions of dollars over these years, and hopefully open a national discussion about the merits of a real bill. Okay, that's important. That's what we want. But as icing on the cake, to shed light on these con artists and grifters would be just wonderful.
Oh, it would, because then you would have the opportunity to state and remember this. We can bring out about the algorithm. We can speak about it, and that going out there would be a game changer as well, because that would expose that whole thing about the algorithm and how it operates and the programming behind it, the machine learning, who it favors, how it works. That would be a game changer, because then that would put them, meaning those entities, in the spotlight, meaning Meta and all the rest of them.
That's true. And that's another side. That's a third part of the Venn diagram, as you want to call it.
Oh, there would be a show that I'll never forget. I can tell you that you and I over there would be a show that no one would ever forget. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right. They would never forget it. It would be something. So,
yes.
Great. All righty. Well, I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight, and thank you for all the wonderful questions. And I have had a good time, and I hope you have as well. And you want to go to the YouTube and check out that video. I'm going to make sure FC has it. He can put it in his description.
I've got it here. We can end
You
with
got
it
it?
if you like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, Carol's got one for you. I don't know if you saw that one.
Oh, okay. Wasn't income tax put in temporarily, even if it's illegal? Is it even legal at this point? Okay, so it was a victory tax. We're going to tax income for the war effort, and it was never removed, and that's the way things work. So you can argue legalities all you want to. Good luck with that one. But yes, it did start out as a temporary tax that was never removed. So.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for that, Dee. Just and I want to say thank you to everyone for your support. Please don't forget, hit the like, put in some great comments, and let's share this all around the place.
Oh, real quick before we go, I want to share this on
sure.
the screen so people, where's my mouse here? Okay. Oops. And stage. Okay. So this is our website. If you've been seeing my website address at the bottom of the screen, it's NESARAinstitute.com. And you can go here, and this is where you're going to find out all the good historical stuff about Harvey. There's even an interview on here he did with a radio station. It's about 8 minutes long. It's wonderful just to hear his voice. Of course, you've got our blog at the bottom. I've got some good articles in there, and you've got links here that'll bring you over to order your copy of the book. And also there's a link at the bottom here to the Facebook page. And we appreciate your support. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Like I said, don't forget to show your appreciation and hit the thumbs up. Put in some great comments to share this around the place, guys. Grassroots. That's the only way we're going to make it. Okay. This is our only chance. Okay. This is only one crack at the title. President Trump is doing what he's doing. We've got to do what we've got to do.
We got to do our part. That's right.
We have to. We all have to do our part. So, Dee, no, thank you very much. And I'm glad that you're back.
Yeah.
You're back.
I'm glad to be back. Yes. I've had a lot of fun. Yes. We're going to do this again real soon.
Now, I would like to, obviously, in the next show, just touch over, because that video that you did on the gold, right? I think it deserves an explanation.
Sure.
What Tucker said and all that, and then put your take on it. Because what people got to get is that these entities are using key players. Now, you think about Sean Hannity, right? And all these other, Glenn Beck, and all the rest of them.
It was one of them.
Right. Now, these people trust them. They trust these people, and they trust them with their money, their investments. And and then they get a lot of money. Don't you worry about that. At a commission, they make a lot of money from commission. They wouldn't be doing it for nothing. I can tell you right now.
That's
especially
right.
when their name's involved. Now, what they're doing is they're robbing people. They could say that, no, we're just advertising it. Well, hold on a minute. You're endorsing something. Now, if you're endorsing something, you're putting your name and your reputation. That means that you swear by something. Now, as a musician, if I endorse, say, Fender strings or Fender bass or whatever it is, I'm going to be a Fender bass player. I'm going to be someone that uses Fender products. I'm going to be someone that uses Fender strings, you know what I mean? And Fender amplifiers, right? That means that you trust my opinion or my advice as a professional, right?
Right.
Now, do you think Mr. Sean Hannity would be investing into a scam like that? Do you think he would be doing that? No. So why take, someone's word if they're not, shall we say, leading by example, right?
Yeah. And well, those companies, even if they were to, it's kind of like a little bait and switch. When you watch the gold video, you'll understand there are different levels of things that you can do, right? You can buy paper gold, which is your EFT your gold, which a lot of people do that, and they're in the gold market that way. You can actually buy real gold, then they'll, for your IRA or whatever, but it's gold bars by weight. And this is where the kind of, I call it bait and switch. They want to sell you collectible coins. Okay. These have no value other than the market could swing on those. And so you buy them for this price and 2 days later, they're down 20%, 30%, and you don't ever get that back. And that is not, in my mind, don't think they're explaining it to people, or they're convincing you that, oh yeah, well, these are rare, so they're going to go up or whatever. You gotta buyer beware. But yeah, that was one of the best informative videos I think I've done in a while. So there was another one. I don't know if it's on my YouTube or not. I know it's on my Facebook. Is about the Mar-a-Lago Accord. I
Yes.
encourage people to watch that if you want to understand some things about what President Trump is doing. Watch that. It's he says some things straight out when you read the Mar-a-Lago Accord, and so it should be no surprise. You hear people in the news where, oh God, I can't believe he's doing this. Didn't you read the thing? I mean, he said straight out, this is the plan. So that's another good one. But I appreciate y'all's time, and thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Okay, we'll keep talking just until I load something. Which is
okay? You're gonna
I'm
load
loading the video.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so this is the thing, guys. Like, we do this for a reason, right? We're not getting paid money to do this, right? We're doing this. We're taking time out to re-educate people with the truth. We're not sitting here talking about gold bars. We're not talking about how's your health. We're not sell. You see here, we're giving you real facts, evidence, and receipts, and real, shall we say, uninterrupted, education, real education. And what you need to remember is this: who is doing what? In other words, you got to start using your discernment. People say, when are these entities going to be taken down? Well, they'll be taken down once you stop enabling them, once you stop engaging with them, once you stop watching them, once people stop watching, they're not going to stick around because the money ain't going to be there. Isn't that right, Dee? That's the reality.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, when the resources dry up, they'll be moving on, and that's the way they operate. We do really well. We hold our stuff together with what they call the pins and needles here, or makeshift. But it's because we're doing it out of our own pockets, and but
That's
we
right.
want, I don't. What I make off the books is just enough to keep things going. In fact, I don't even do my t-shirts anymore. I wouldn't, it was costing me more. So I just had to close that down. But I want to keep the website going. I want to keep people informed. We've got to let people know that this can be a option and a real plan for the country if they know about it, and so it just perpetuates itself. And this I do because FCB is so generous to offer the studio and allow me to come on when I can and spread the word. So I'm very grateful for that.
I mean, look, everything costs, guys. I mean, look, even to do what we're doing right now, it costs money. I mean, subscription to use the studio, all these things that I do on the Pulse as well, okay, is all resources being used. And these resources cost money, okay? So what I want to say thank you to those that do donate. The donations do go to, reinvesting in the platform and bringing you uninterrupted, real truths, giving people the real peace of mind they deserve. All right. That's what it's all about. Not sitting there. You don't see me sitting there talking about sponsors, because if I was speaking about sponsors, I would be detracting away from what I'm about. What I'm about is bringing out truth. The sponsors are only going to give you money if you follow the narrative. They got you by the proverbial neck, right? They're not threatened by the ones that go out there and lie and deceive. No, because people, how can I say, it works like this. The more people you have, the more your engagement, the more money they make through advertising, right? Advertising their wares. This is why this is the road least traveled. Because literally it is God's road. This is the road least traveled.
It's totally traveled. That's right. That's right.
So if you can, and as I said, this is just like I say, no one's got a gun to their head, but it helps. If you can donate on the top corner there, shout me a coffee if you like. It goes towards keeping the lights on, keeping the expenses in check. Okay, because everything is expensive. Right there, you can hit that thing there in the QR code, or you can go to, which we're going to set up these one as well.
Yeah.
It's there, https://linktree/FCB podcast. That's my new link tree. Okay. You can go there and shout me a coffee. And as I said, it goes towards the expenses and keeping them in check. So what we're going to do now, Dee, is we're going to end not with our our normal ending, with the video.
Oh, you want to do the gold video or the one for tonight?
No,
okay.
The one that you did for tonight. So
okay, that's great. That'll put everything in a little package for me. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, and just let everyone know, stick around and watch it. It goes for 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's very informative. Okay, thanks.
Cheers, everyone. God bless. Okay, here we go.
We have been experiencing economic whiplash for entirely too long. Just over the last year, it has been impossible to ignore. We watched global markets, oil prices, mortgage expectations, bond yields, construction costs, credit markets, and even retirement accounts move dramatically, sometimes within minutes, because of a speech, a policy announcement, a social media post, or even speculation about what might happen next. That should raise an important question for all of us. Not whether a specific policy was right or wrong, but whether any modern economy should be this vulnerable to political volatility in the first place. And that is where Harvey Barnard's original NESARA proposal becomes relevant. In April 2025, President Trump announces the Liberation Day tariffs. The markets panic. The S&P 500 drops nearly 5%. NASDAQ falls roughly 6%. Retirement accounts swing wildly. Then only days later, a tariff pause is announced, and the S&P surges more than 9% in a single day. Think about that. Millions of Americans watch their pensions, 401ks, and retirement savings rise and fall dramatically because of one political announcement. Then came the conflict with Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Markets reacted instantly again. Why? Because modern markets are deeply dependent on expectations, interest rates, Federal Reserve policy, political signaling, and government intervention. Then came drug price announcements, oil shocks involving Iran, credit card proposals, mortgage discussions, copper tariffs, and every time, markets moved before ordinary Americans even knew what would actually happen. Oil rises, gasoline fears rise. Treasury yields rise, borrowing costs rise. Copper spikes, construction costs rise. Here is the heart of the issue. A healthy economic system should not resemble an emotional roller coaster. And this is not about Republicans versus Democrats. The same weakness would exist under any administration, because the problem is structural. A reactive system is not the same thing as a stable system. So now let's connect this back to Harvey Barnard's original work. One of the central goals of NESARA was reducing structural instability inside the monetary system itself. The National Economic Stabilization and Recovery Act proposed several mechanisms designed specifically to reduce long-term economic volatility. First, a stable constitutional monetary system, not endless manipulation through debt expansion and politically influenced monetary policy. Second, elimination of federal income tax and replacement with a national sales tax structure. That reduces distortion inside labor markets, business growth, and investment behavior. Third, banking reforms designed to place greater transparency and restraint on financial institutions. And perhaps most importantly, NESARA was built around predictability. Predictability creates confidence. Confidence creates stability. Stability allows long-term planning. So whether someone agrees with every aspect of Harvey Barnard's proposal or not, the events of the last year demonstrate something very clearly. Our current system is extraordinarily sensitive to political influence. And when one announcement can move Oil prices, bond yields, construction costs, mortgage expectations, stock markets, and retirement accounts? That is not true stability. That is systemic fragility. And maybe that is exactly why conversations about monetary reform are becoming more important than ever. If you would like to learn how a stable economy can really work, please read Harvey's complete work published in 2005. The name of his book, Draining the Swamp, The NESARA Story. Yes, that's right. Published in 2005, he knew this economic turmoil was coming long ago, but because his bill would change the system in favor of the average citizen, he and his visionary work was discredited. It's now come back to life and is available for everyone. It is clear the current system, no matter how good the intentions may be, can never provide real stability, and those who benefit from it have no motivation to change it. Click the link below, visit our website, get a copy of the book, and share this video so we, the people, can demand sanity and stability over our monetary system. Thank you for listening.